The best day of the week, Diesel, is here. It's Friday, a little loose today as we are ready to take you wire to wire. I'm sitting on the other side today with my buddy Diesel.
It's weird to have you where I can actually touch you.
We can touch.
Hey, you guys can't see that because it's off camera, but
our man Ben is rocking and rolling behind the board today for the first time. So give him a shout out as well. I have on this Friday, Diesel, I have something that you may disagree with. The Tolos, they may disagree with, but here we go. Getting right into it on a Friday edition of Wire to Wire. He's Diesel, I'm Cole Bryson. The Atlanta Braves, Brian Snitker, I'm here to tell you it's time for a change.
Oh, you're one of those guys.
It's time for a change.
Fire everyone.
When the best of the best, Diesel, feel it slipping, what do? They make a change, and I'm here to tell you today on August 9th, 2024. And again, I will welcome any pushback, but I'm here to tell you it's time to fire Brian Snitker. The Atlanta Braves, yes, have had injury problems. I acknowledge that, but the buck, Diesel, stops with Brian Snitker, and it's time to go, buddy.
Bet you won't say the same thing to Graham Neff.
No, surely not, right? Why would I do that, such a thing? I just think, man, like, honestly, I know that Brian Snitker's a good manager, but I really mean this, and I want you to hear me say this, Tolos, when I mean the best franchises, the best organizations, they don't wait until it gets to the bottom. They don't wait until it slipped too far. Listen to this. Frank Vogel got fired after winning an NBA championship. Larry Brown was fired by the Pistons after winning a championship. Mike Budenholzer fired from the Bucks after winning a championship. Gene Chizik won a national championship, and a few months later, he was gone. Alex Cora fired by the Red Sox. Diesel, not long after a 2018 World Series. I'm here to tell you, I love Brian Snitker, but it is time.
It takes a massive set of you-know-whats to do what's necessary in service of the fans, which is winning championships, right? That's what we're all here for. We're all here to win championships versus doing what's necessary in service of the players, in service of the players' families or their feelings. Like, we're all in this business to win. Every coach is in this business to win. I don't care whether you're the head coach at Georgia State or you're the head coach at Georgia. You are trying to win. Now, the other things may be byproducts, like putting guys in the league or helping guys, finish their school and get their degrees. All of those things are great. And you know who talks the most about those things? Teams that aren't winning on the field. Teams that don't have wins on the field to talk about graduation rates. Teams that see their success on the field talk about graduation rates. Have you ever heard Georgia talk about graduation rates in your life?
No, theirs is below 50.
You ever hear Dan Lanning up at Oregon talking about graduation rates? No, he's talking about trying to win national friggin' championships.
No, you're right. You're exactly right. And that's why, again, I'm not saying, and I want people to hear me clear on Wire to Wire, all of our Tolos, I greatly appreciate all of you listening, but I want you to understand one thing. I'm not saying that this season is 110% Brian Snitker's fault. I understand that they've had injuries, but what I am telling you is, at the end of the day, when it all boils down to who's responsible, Brian Snitker's responsible. The injuries, he can't control. I understand that. Diesel understands that. But Madcraft, on the stream, Madcraft says, trust me, I get it, but you can place any manager in this spot this year and the results would have been the same. What is he supposed to do? I don't agree with that. I don't agree. I think that a good manager this year would have gotten the most out of the guys, changed up something. Instead of making excuses about, hitting's down league wide, I think a good manager would have adjusted and figured out a way to get the most out of his guys.
Yeah, that's like business owners who see their businesses failing and they say, oh, well, it's bad market conditions. It's bad market conditions. That's why we had to close our doors. There's a lot of businesses that thrive in bad market conditions.
Yeah, there are. There's no doubt about it. That businesses do. I understand that. And the reality of it is, Diesel, the Braves are still a good team when healthy.
Sure.
But the best of the best recognize slippage. The Braves scored 947 runs last year. They're on pace to score 675 this year.
A 30% drop-off.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure of a bigger offensive fall-off in the history of the MLB from 947 runs to 675. If you are against me on this, if you do believe that I'm wrong, and I completely will take your response, your pushback, please text into the show 71307. But tell me why I'm wrong, because I want to hear from you, and I'm sure Diesel has an opinion on if he should be canned or do you let it ride out one more year.
It's a manager's job when a piece on his roster goes down, whether it's due to injury or whether it's just due to overall slip in play. It's his job to manage the situation. It's not incumbent upon him to leave that guy on the roster as long as he possibly can and hope that he gets it right. No, it's his job to make the moves necessary to put his team in a position to win. And what we've seen over the course of this season is as the Atlanta Braves have been up and down and up and down and up and down. And it's great that there's still 7 games over 500. It is let's be real, it's a miracle that there's still 7 games over 500 the way that they've played. But it is his job, along with Alex Anthopoulos, the general manager, to go out and find the pieces that will keep them winning. Find the pieces that will get their hitting back on track. And they have failed miserably at that.
JT and Greer chimes in, which you can do as well on the text line 71307. Start your text with the word fan. JT says, I agree with Cole. The Braves need to change it up. What say you? 71307 Braves fans. Phone lines open as well. 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. I have a lot more thoughts on the Braves, but it looks like, is that Dewey? Diesel?
We got Dewey. Yeah, we got Dewey on the line.
Our daily Dewey.
Yeah, Dewey, your thoughts on Brian Snitker? Is he doing enough to keep his job?
Oh, there's too many excuses from him. Oh, no, we didn't hit. Hitting's hard. Winning's hard. It's the same crap every night. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're going to be below 500 at the end of the year. It's time to fire him and bring back Ron Washington and Chipper Jones.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how Brian Snitker, through Dewey's mouth, kind of has the same excuses as Dabo Sweeney while they're not winning.
A little bit.
Yeah?
You know what? I think that's my all-time favorite Dewey call.
Thank you, Dewey. Yeah, you know what? Dewey, cutting you off when we did is no disrespect to you, but all you could do is ruin that call from there because the first part of that call was fantastic. And bring that energy every day, Dewey. Right. How about that?
That's right. I'm very impressed with Dewey's call. I agree. And again, you may call me the upset fan. You may call me overreactive, Cole, and I get that. I understand. That's a fair take.
You and I have contained our reactions to this point. I mean, this is Cole finally bubbling over. I like angry Cole.
Well, let me tell you this, Diesel. As a good friend of mine said, I was talking to him this morning. Lives down in Somerville. And he said, look, and I thought he said this very well. He said, you can't pretend that every July the answer is, AA will re-sign 35-year-olds that were on the 2021 championship squad, right? You gave Charlie Morton $16 million. You made a huge mistake by giving 85-year-old Charlie Morton that much money. And a buddy of mine that I talked to this morning, he's exactly right. You messed up big time. You can't expect re-signing Jorge Soler every summer at a 35-year-old, however he is, he's getting up there. You can't expect that to be the answer. That was the beginning of the end, in my opinion, re-signing Charlie Morton to a ridiculous amount of money. This isn't the same team, Diesel, they had in 2021, even when healthy. And I'm not saying teams should stay together forever. I understand things happen. However, even when healthy, Eddie Rosario's not that guy anymore. Freddie Freeman's in L.A., Jock Peterson's in Arizona. Dansby Swanson's in Chicago. The core of that 2021 championship team is absolutely gone. Yeah, you still have Riley and Freed and others, but my opinion, the buck stops with Snit, and he has not gotten the most. How far do you let this decline is my point before you bring somebody in and make a change.
Bringing Charlie Morton back, bringing Jorge Soler back kind of feels like, and I know you're not a huge movie buff, so you may not understand this reference. This feels like bringing Sean Connery back for Never Say Never Again, which is by far his weakest James Bond film. But Connery had been out of the role for quite a while. And then the producers of the movies start to see fans falling off a little bit. People weren't super into Roger Moore, and they might have even had a couple of James Bonds after that. But they brought Sean Connery back for another movie like 20 years past his prime. And it's like, okay, yeah, it feels good to see Sean Connery put the suit back on again and, womanize again. But let's be real. This is not Sean Connery from Dr. No. This is not Sean Connery from Goldfinger. This is 20-year-older Sean Connery from Never Say Never Again.
Tyler on Facebook says, love the show, listen to y'all all the time, but due to work, this is the first time I could join the stream.
Thank you, Tyler.
How about that?
That's awesome.
Appreciate that. Appreciate you
Tyler,
being a part of it.
Do us a favor, man. We've been hammering on this the last couple of days. Tell 2 friends. All of you Tolos watching the show, listening to the show, tell 2 friends. If you've got the stream up, you've got the link, send it to 2 people. Don't just post it on your Facebook wall. That's good and all, but do that direct grassroots thing where you send it directly to somebody and say, hey, they're talking about the Braves right now. This is really interesting. You need to jump into this conversation right now.
You know what's interesting about it, in my opinion, is I remember when the Lakers fired Frank Vogel after the championship. And at the time, I thought, what are you doing? What are you doing? I remember when Mike Budenholzer was fired. I don't remember when Larry Brown was fired by the Pistons. I do remember when Gene Chizik was fired after a national title the next year. It just goes terribly wrong. Alex Cora, 2018 World Series. Well, what happens to him? The very next year, he's gone. I'm not saying, Diesel, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying that firing the guy always works, but if you continue to let it go in the direction that it's going, do you just hope and pray that let's run it back in 2025, let's hope nobody gets injured, and let's hope that Brian Snitker can get the most out of the guys we have. Oh, and by the way, if somebody does get injured, you can count us out. We're done. We have nobody else that's going to step up because our manager doesn't know how to get the most out of his players. That's the situation you're in, and if you disagree with me, Braves fans, I'll tell you, be better, want more, expect better. You can't just go around and say, oh, well, let's run it back next year in 2025 and hope it works again. It's time for a freaking change, man. They're terrible this year. They're not good right now. And you said it yesterday. They should already be in first place the way the Phillies slid a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, the best teams the best teams are really the best teams because they're good at predicting what they're going to need before they need it. And then they get to go out and be selective, or they get to go out and be, have the time to be creative and make the moves that they need to make to stay in front. The Atlanta Braves did not make the moves that they needed to stay in front, and that's how you get a team that gets old. It's kind of like what we saw happen with the Golden State Warriors. They didn't make enough changes. They left their core in place for as long as they possibly can. The fans love it. I understand why it's difficult to say, hey, let's move on from Draymond Green. Let's move on from Klay Thompson. Let's move on from Steph Curry. They would never move on from Steph Curry. He is the one piece that they wouldn't move on from. But they didn't make the necessary moves to get young and stay young around them. And the franchise just got old.
If you're watching on the stream, you'll be able to see this. But this is a clip of a home run by Milwaukee. I believe it was Contreras yesterday, and the Braves loss. Diesel, does this look like Truist Park has
my God,
many fans in attendance?
Are you sure that's not from pregame?
No, sir. That is a home run during the first inning.
Ooh.
You don't think Braves fans are not showing up yet? Who wants to go in August and September in football country and go watch a team that can't score and back-to-back nights and can't even beat the Marlins, gets shut out 7-0, can't beat the Brewers. I heard Rob Brown talking about it this morning, and I thought Rob was right talking about Brian Snitker. You can only play the excuse game so long. And I know that injuries are a valid point. There's validity with injuries. I understand that. But, man, like, you've got at some point, you've got to want more. You've got to want better. You've got to expect more. And I just don't think Braves fans, you have guys who will tell you on Twitter who cover the Braves, like Bill Shanks, oh, this has nothing to do with Brian Snitker. This is 100% player personnel. Well, guess what? At the end of the day, like I said, you can't expect AA to make moves at the trade deadline anymore.
It's Brian Snitker's job to manage the player personnel. Like, all of these things are connected.
Yeah.
These players don't operate in a bubble. Brian Snitker does not operate in a bubble. Alex Anthopoulos does not operate in a bubble. All of these things affect every other part of this. It's all connected. And the sooner people get that through their minds, because everybody wants to lay blame. Oh, we just want to blame the players because we love Brian Snitker because he did so many good things for us in the past. No, you can't think that way. That's the way people at Penn State thought.
Yeah.
About Joe Paterno. Oh, well, the players aren't getting it done. There's clearly something wrong going on. It's all on the players. None of it's on Joe Paterno. And oh my God, guess what? Joe Paterno, he wasn't doing what Jerry Sandusky was doing, but he also kind of knew that it was happening. And that's one of those things that is systematic, right? It affects everything going on in the program.
The reality,
so get that through your heads, Braves fans. Stop compartmentalizing as if they're all mutually exclusive. It's all connected.
The reality of it is this. Yes, it is hard to win. I'm not discounting that. The Dodgers are a perfect example of it being hard to win. They have underachieved year after year after year while teams pop up in the NL East, besides the Braves, other than 2021, and go make a run at the World Series. I understand that winning's hard. I understand that winning the whole thing is hard. My point is the Braves have had before, after, and during the World Series run, they have had teams capable of making runs to the World Series. In 2021, yes, they won the World Series, but I'll even go a step further and say Alex Anthopoulos bailed Brian Snitker out in 2021. He bailed him out. He gave him a plethora of guys at the trade deadline. Those guys came in and played their you-know-what's off. They raked. They were phenomenal. So you tell me how those guys coming in because of AA at the trade deadline in 21, you tell me how that was Brian Snitker's doing. How does Brian Snitker get credit for that? I'm here to tell you, Alex Anthopoulos bought Brian Snitker time by doing that.
Well, Cole, we live in an excuse economy, right? Everybody's making excuses for everything. Nobody takes any responsibility for anything. Oh, Dabo can't win. It's because his receivers went down. Brian Snitker can't win. It's because this guy and that guy went down. Political candidate does something you like. Oh, well, the other candidate over here did something. Stop making excuses. Yeah. Hell, I had somebody the other day, making excuses for why I had a bad experience at Whataburger the first time I've ever been there. You weren't there. These are people who weren't even there in the room making excuses for a restaurant that just friggin' opened. Stop making excuses for everything and just start laying blame. Can we do that?
230 says the Braves have had a ton of key injuries this year. Yes, they have.
Excuse.
Texter says it has nothing to do with the coach, period. Well, listen, Texter, you're entitled to your opinion, and that's perfectly fine. I just want someone, and we can bring this up later in the show. We have plenty of time. I want someone to tell me why it has nothing to do with the coach. I'm here to tell you, I like Brian Snitker. I think Brian Snitker's a fine coach. However, at the end of the day, it's his job to get the most out of the guys on the roster he has on the roster, and that's the last thing I'll say about it. Until you bring me some facts and reasoning on why it's not the coach's fault, I'm going to stand on this stool and say it's time to move on from Snitker.
Well, Brian Snitker is the manager. The buck stops with Brian Snitker. As far as what happens on the field, that is all on Brian Snitker. He manages the hitting coaches. He manages the pitching coaches. He manages the scouts. He manages his team that does everything. And you know what those guys do? They coach the players.
Yeah.
They are the ones working with the players each and every day. So Brian Snitker could possibly have bad position coaches who are then coaching badly to these players who are getting paid a lot of money. Let's stop pretending for a moment that these are little leaguers. And you can say, oh, well, little Timmy's mom and dad just got divorced, so that's the reason why his head's not in the game and he hadn't hit any home runs this week. No, these guys are professionals. They're getting paid millions upon millions of dollars, more money than any of us will ever see in our lifetime. It is their job to go hit the ball, and they're not hitting the ball. And that goes to themselves. That goes to their hitting coaches. That goes to Brian Snitker. Stop making excuses for these guys. Enough with that. Hey, when we come back, Cole, an ominous start to the Carolina Panthers 2024 season, and I'm not even talking about the game. Wow. Could you imagine what that was like when the Carolina Panthers hit the runway as Charlotte Douglas last night? We'll get to that next, right here on the Fan Upstate. Ugh. The Carolina Panthers continue to be a complete and utter embarrassment. And I'm not even talking about that 17-3 performance they put up last night in preseason game number 1. I understand it's the preseason. I understand these games don't matter. I understand that none of the starters played. I'm talking about getting your ass kicked in New England, and then your plane runs off the runway when you get back to Charlotte Douglas.
I think they blamed Debbie on that one. Hurricane Debbie. I think
no,
that's their blame.
It was gone. What are you talking about?
Well, it was wet. I'm just saying.
What was wet? It was Charlotte. It was not raining last night. It was dry as a bone last night.
It was standing water, maybe? You don't think? I'm just trying to give him an excuse here.
I mean, if that is not...
Come on, Delta.
Hey, Cole, I joked with you about this earlier. If they hadn't moved training camp out of Spartanburg, that wouldn't have happened.
Oh, yeah.
It's karma.
It's true.
It's karma for taking training camp away from us, for taking Fan Fest away from us. Just bad things continue to happen to David Tepper and the Carolina Panthers. Guys, if you hadn't heard about that, the incident happened around 2:40 a.m. when the Carolina Panthers landed at Charlotte Douglas Airport on their way back from their preseason game at New England. The plane skidded off the end of the runway. The tires got stuck in the mud, and it took them another hour and a half to get off the plane. Could you imagine how uncomfortable that plane ride was home? Like, number one, you got all the starters looking at these scrubs that they know aren't even going to be on the team next week saying, you guys friggin' suck. And now I got to sit on a plane with you for another hour and a half while they no, you can't. Like, it took them. I was reading into this. It took them an hour to get the stairs over to the planes. Just so
why
they
does
could
that take an hour?
I don't know, man.
I don't know. An hour to push some steps over there.
The incident happened at 2:40, and then it says they did not disembark the plane until about 3:45 this morning. I mean, just you just smack your forehead. Like, what is it? Airplane? Was it the movie Airplane where everybody's like smacking their foreheads together at the exact same time? Just, like, this stuff just keeps happening to this franchise. And I understand. I really do understand that none of this is Dave Tepper's fault.
Well, let's blame it on
we've got to blame all of the rest of it is Dave Tepper's fault. But the fact that the plane skidded off the runway, not Dave Tepper's fault, right?
How about this? Madcraft comes in with the comment of the year. Tepper was probably flying it to save money. So he didn't land on the runway. Big Dave thought he could fly the plane back from New England.
Oh, man. Well, he was flying the hell out of that cheeseburger at the Panthers Fan Fest all alone last week. That photo, you weren't on it. Oh, God. Did I show you that picture?
The flag?
No, not the flag.
What picture?
The picture of Dave Tepper sitting by himself in the VIP room, chowing down on a cheeseburger, nobody anywhere near him.
No.
Man, that's embarrassing. Why
didn't you go sit with him?
Because I was in the booth.
You should have.
I was in the broadcast booth.
You should have put your headset down and went and sat with him. It doesn't matter about a broadcast.
I got to find this photo and show you this, man. This is brutal. This is just totally brutal. There you go. There's Dave Tepper by himself. Nobody wants to be around the guy. Oh, He's just chowing down on his food alone.
I feel bad for him.
Now, let it be shown that I didn't show that photo, that Cole showed that photo.
Cole did. Cole Bryson.
Oh, man. Now,
I feel bad. He looks sad, man. Looks like
he should look sad. He screwed up everything.
Looks like he just ate 3 Whataburgers. That's what it looks like.
Oh, my God.
IT Gamecock says, Big Deborah strikes again in Charlotte. That's Big Deb's fault. I'm going to blame it on the hurricane. I mean, that's bad.
Were they still? I mean, so it was dry here in the upstate last night. Were they still getting rain?
I don't know.
In Charlotte,
I'm just pretending.
At 2:30 in the morning.
I'm just giving them an excuse. I'm just giving the blame. But that was about, I would say, Diesel, the plane running off the runway.
It's par for the course.
It was probably more entertaining than what the Panthers showed. Now, I will say this: there was a local radio host yesterday in the upstate who said to watch out for Joe Milton yesterday.
Ooh,
I don't know who said it, but Joe Milton looked really good on that first drive. Went down,
he did.
Scored a freaking touchdown. Diesel went up 7-0. Joe Milton, Bailey Zappi, Drake May, Jacoby Brissett. Somebody said yesterday they've got a problem, and Joe Milton may be the best quarterback in the room.
I think you're probably right.
Man.
I mean, now we didn't get to see a lot of Drake May. We saw Jacoby Brissett threw 3 passes. Drake May dropped back to throw 3 times. He connected on 2 out of 3, 20 yards. Good job, Drake May. Bailey Zappi got the majority. And look, that's all I wanted for Bryce Young. That's all I wanted for a lot of these starters. Just give me enough on the field so that I can look at it and say you're competent. If all hell breaks loose after that, I couldn't give a rip. I don't care if guys who are not going to make this team go out there and play Bad News Bears football after that. Like I don't care. I just want to watch the first quarter of the game and have some little nugget that I can grab a hold of and say, there it is. That's just a little bit of improvement. That's just a little something that I can feel good about going into the 2024 season. And I don't think we're going to get that.
No.
We got more of what we had all of last season. You know, I'm down the street at a bar watching the game, and what do I see? The first thing I see when I finally get them to change the channel, I see 3rd and 17, and then a pre-snap penalty, which pushed the Carolina Panthers back inside their own
tough.
10-yard line. That's the first thing I saw.
And you've got a host of
these Carolina.
Show.
Yeah, it's just brutal.
You know, what's fascinating is the preseason games are it's a tough spot because, as you and I both know, they're there. The coaches want to get a gauge on guys like Jack Plummer, Jake Luton, Mike Boone, Jordan Matthews, and other young players for the Panthers last night. And I understand that they have a list of things that they want to check off that they're wanting to see from these players. The hard part is, though, it's almost like a all-star game in a sense. Hang with me, and I'll bridge the connection. The hard part about the preseason is the coaches, for them it matters. For the players that are playing, the young players, it matters. However, from the fan standpoint, there's nothing there that the fan, other than the diehard Panthers fan that wants to watch Mike Boone, there's nothing there that draws them in, much like an all-star game. On the flip side, nothing that draws the player in. And I think the similarity is on a preseason game, it does draw crowds because we're starving for football. Mm-hmm. But we've got to figure out a way, and I guess I don't know what the ratings are for preseason games, but it's just not entertaining from the fan perspective at all.
Yeah, I can't say, like, who can look at Andy Reid, who's making the decision to play Patrick Mahomes, and say, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. Dave Canales is a first-year head coach. This is his 2nd season ever calling plays. And now he's got head coaching duties. He's got other things he's got to deal with from the sideline. That guy needs as many reps as he can get calling in plays, communicating effectively to his starters. Dave Canales needs reps as well. He needs reps with the ones because that's who he's going to be dealing with for the majority of the season. Some of those guys are going to trickle in and out, sure, but he needs as many reps as he can get with the starters himself. So that's one of the things. I mean, I didn't articulate that point yesterday, but that's one of the things that disappointed me most about the decision to sit 33 guys off of this team. Most of the guys who are going to be playing this year, sitting those guys because, number one, Carolina Panthers weren't exactly good last year.
No, not really.
Dave Canales ain't exactly seasoned and experienced as a play coach, play caller, and efficient getting in, communicating in what he wants to do. All of these things matter. And if you're going into week 1 against the division foe of the New Orleans Saints, and then you're starting to figure all of this stuff out, you're behind the 8 ball. That was my biggest point and my biggest criticism of Dave Canales and choosing to do what he did as far as sitting so many guys.
So I think that preseason games, as I said yesterday on the Sports Spin, I don't think the outcome matters. Now, obviously, it feels good to win, but I don't think the outcome matters in terms of the team morale and the fan base. I don't think fans, and I think you and I probably agree on this, fans shouldn't get caught up on if their team wins or loses. I understand your point in terms of wanting to get Bryce Young reps. I don't know if they will let him play at all during the preseason. I'd imagine he'd get a few snaps in a couple of series. Again, I do disagree with you on the Bryce Young situation, and I will say I think that Bryce Young, if it were his first season in the NFL, I think I'd agree with you. I think I'd be in the same boat.
Isn't this basically his first season in the NFL?
First season with Dave.
He's unproven. He sucked last year. Call it what you want. Call it bad offensive line. I don't care. He sucked last year. He needs as many reps as he can possibly get, even if that means 2 series in a preseason game. He needs everything he can get. I
just don't think 2 series in a preseason game really helps, is my point,
Well, wouldn't you want week 1 of the season against the New Orleans Saints? Wouldn't you want him to have a total of 50 reps under his belt and then 0? I mean, if he splits those apart, if he takes 12 snaps in each preseason game, 12 snaps, takes a series in each preseason game, isn't it better to have 30 reps under your belt than 0?
If they are with guys that are ones, I think so. I just don't want him out there with a bunch of scrubs because I worry about that hurting his confidence. I don't want him out there with a bunch of 2s and 3s.
Well, why don't we just put a red jersey on the quarterbacks in the preseason and say, don't hit the QB?
Well, that's true. I mean, they could. They very well could. You know what? I think he will get some snaps. I think he will. In probably preseason game 3. They played the Patriots last night. Let's see. They have 2 more preseason games, the Panthers do. Preseason week 2, the Carolina Panthers are at home against Aaron Rodgers, Robert Saleh, New York Jets. That should be really fascinating. And then preseason week 3, let's see, the Carolina Panthers in preseason week 3 are, man, I don't see them anywhere. Did they not have a week 3? Oh, I'm sorry, at Buffalo. I would say, Diesel, yes, he should get playing time in the preseason. I'm not going to sit here and say he shouldn't play at all in the preseason. I think last night was kind of pointless, but either against the Jets or against the Bills on August 24th, I would like to see him take a few snaps.
But isn't it usually the opposite? Don't starters usually play in the first preseason game, but not in the second and third?
Well, I guess it depends. And you know what? I think that'd be a great question for Dave Canales, right? And I don't know if David Newton, who we have on, good friend of the show, I don't know if anyone on the Panthers beat has directly asked about Bryce Young and him not playing last night and if he will play in 2 or 3. But I'll reach out to Dave because I am fascinated if Dave Canales gives some stupid answer on why he's not playing, then I'll probably agree with you.
Well, here's what we did see last night. We saw Jake Plummer look bad. 11 of 21, 86 yards, sacked 5 times. He sailed a couple passes. Jonathan Mingo dropped a big one. I think Amir Smith-Marset missed a big one or dropped a big one as well. So, again, that's more of what we saw last year. Considering the fact, Cole, that when we were you weren't there, obviously, but when we were at Carolina Panthers Fan Fest, we had Anish Shroff sitting beside us. When he was getting up, Steve Smith was about to sit down next to us. He said, ask him about Mingo. He's like, ask him about Mingo. And for all intents and purposes, Jonathan Mingo has come a long way in the offseason. He's struggling to find live reps, right? He's got to look good if he wants to go out there and get live reps. And then what does Jonathan Mingo do? He goes out there and he looks bad. I mean, I get it. Preseason game number 1, and maybe you put him out there for game number 2 and 3. He looks a lot better, and those first preseason game jitters are gone. I sure as hell, for his sake, hope that that's the case. But we saw Jack Plummer look bad. We saw Luton look good, and I would be willing to venture if Bryce Young doesn't play in preseason game number 2, that Luton gets the majority of the snaps and Jack Plummer comes in late, because those are 2 guys who are going to be fighting for a roster spot. Those are going to be 2 guys that need to convince the coaching staff that they deserve a roster spot.
And until Andy Dalton gets better, because I think he's still out with injury.
Right. So they would be the 3rd quarterback, and a lot of teams don't keep 3 QBs.
The last thing I'll say about it is I've always had the philosophy on preseason not to read too much into it and not really care in terms of what the outcome is. I'm going to try to do that again this year. If I see week 1, week 2, direct correlation between Bryce Young preseason not playing and then him playing in the regular season and not looking good, then maybe I'll start to come around. But as of right now, I'm going to stand on not reading too much into the preseason.
I'd tell you what, though, if you're the New England Patriots and you've got 4 quarterbacks on your roster,
God, what a weird place
Drake May was your draft pick. You got to keep him.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Milton looked really good in limited reps, 54 yards and a touchdown. I think he's doing a lot to earn a roster spot. Bailey Zappi, he didn't look bad either. He went 12 for 20 and 100 yards.
You can't keep all 4.
Who do you cut immediately? Who's your first one gone?
Zappy, May,
Zappy.
Milton. No, well, hold on. No, there's 4. Zappy,
Brissett.
May, Milton, and Brissett.
Yeah.
I'm cutting. Well, here's the deal. How many are you going to keep? You
Yeah.
keep 3 quarterbacks?
Most keep 2. Most teams keep 2, and if they have to go to a QB3, they go to trades or they go to who's available off the wire.
If it were me, I'd keep May and Milton. Those are the 2, yeah.
Really?
Milton
So
might be the best quarterback.
Now
there.
the only 2 quarterbacks you've got are rookies.
Yeah.
Yowza.
You know, that Zappy, he doesn't move the meter for me.
I get it. He was excellent at Western Kentucky, but he has not done big things in New England.
All right, coming up next, day 5. Will the game end today? Carson Beck versus, I will give Diesel his opponent for today's Carson Beck versus. On the other side, he's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate. This quarterback in 2023 threw for 3,660 yards, 30 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 373 yards on the ground, 12 rushing touchdowns, 87.3 QBR. He was absolutely phenomenal. Transferred from Oklahoma to Oregon. And today's Carson Beck versus day 5. Diesel said no to Shedeur Sanders. He said no to Quinn Ewers yesterday. But does Diesel say no on day number 5 of Carson Beck versus Dillon Gabriel?
This is where it starts to get really good. This is where it starts to get really hard to pick, because you look at a lot of the numbers. Dillon Gabriel is as close as it gets to being Carson Beck's equal as I think you can get. I mean, I'm just looking at their stats side by side, and maybe it's rushing yards, because when it comes to being a passer, I would say, yeah, I'd rather have Dillon Gabriel as a passer. Now I'm trying to find his stats as a runner there so we can split stats there. As a runner at Oklahoma last year, Dillon Gabriel picked up 375 yards on the ground. It's not earth-shattering. 4 yards a carry, not bad, right? When you compare that to Carson Beck's 2023 season, he had 116 yards on the ground for just under 2 yards a carry. So Cole, I think you got me on this one. I think you got me. I think I would rather have Dillon Gabriel as my quarterback than Carson Beck. The only hurdle is Dillon Gabriel's size, because he's 5 inches shorter than Carson Beck. Beck's a big dude, 6'4", 220. Dillon Gabriel's 5'11", 204. But I'm also thinking about this. See, I'm not going to let the Bryce Young bias and the fact that he is, 5'2", 110 pounds. I'm not going to let that come into play here. Are you a good quarterback in college? Yes or no? That's all that matters here. So, I don't care about their draft status or how they project or anything like that.
Guess what? I agree with you. I would also take Dillon Gabriel. He enters the season number 8 on the all-time FBS passing list with 14,865 yards. He needs this season 4,353 yards to break Case Keenum's record, which was 19,217. That would be a lot. It would require Gabriel to set a career-high Diesel, but it's in the realm of possibility, because last year, Bo Nix threw for 4,508 on the same team, and that's 200 more than what Gabriel would need this year to become that or to break that record, if you will. And I think he could do it.
Yeah, I'm looking. Let's see. Carson Beck had one phenomenal season last year, but before that, 2022 and 2021, he didn't play much, right? So 3,900 yards passing last year. But I look at Dillon Gabriel, and he's been consistent every single season except for 2021, which I would assume, because the numbers were so far down, I would assume he got injured in 2021. And I just don't know. Somebody help me out if Dillon Gabriel went down in 2021. But in 2019, 3,600 yards. Yeah. 2020, 3,500. 2022, first year at Oklahoma, 3,200 yards. 2023, 3,600 yards. The guy is a machine.
He is, man.
In his consistency. His passing completion percentage has gotten better year in and year out. And it's not like they're asking him to throw the ball less than what he was doing before.
And I want to be clear. I'm not saying that Dillon Gabriel's on a team that allows him to have a better year. I think Carson Beck's in the best situation possible at Georgia, as we've said many times on this program. He has guys all around him. However, if you took me to a neutral field with just your average Joe of receivers and gave me Carson Beck or Dillon Gabriel, I would bet that you and I, Diesel, would watch both of them in the normal quarterback drills, and we would be blown away, and we would both take Dylan Gabriel. So the game ends today. It's over. And it's just in time for your vacation, too. That was
how about that? Yeah. I don't know if you set that up on purpose, but, man, Dylan Gabriel.
No way.
Dylan Gabriel is just a really good quarterback. He's an older guy. Somebody said he's been in college for 7 years. Yeah, he has. He has been in college for 7 years. Eventually, I don't know how there's going to – we're gonna have players who played during COVID having kids who are then playing college football who somehow still have COVID eligibility. Like, oh, you were the son of somebody who played during COVID. You get an extra year. They're just handing these things out. Man, it's just Dylan Gabriel is an impressive quarterback. I don't like the fact that he's transferred so many times, but hey, that's modern college football. I'm not going to hold that against him.
Absolutely. It's fascinating, but it should be a lot of fun to watch, Gabriel. You know what? Both are good. Both are really good quarterbacks. However, at the end of the day, I think both of them will be in New York. When
we come back, Cole, the college football playoff is here this year. It is confusing the 12-team rules. I'm going to explain to you why. It's actually more favorable to miss your conference championship game than it is to play for it and go win it and get the bye. Ooh. That's coming up next on the Fan Upstate. Cole, if you're a college football coach, the head of a team that is right there on the verge of making the college football playoff, it would feel natural to say, man, we really want to make the conference championship game, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to win the thing because it guarantees us that we're in the playoff. It guarantees us that we're going to get a bye, right? What if I told you you could avoid playing in the conference championship game, still get a bye, be rested and ready to go, and have the easiest, on paper at least, road to a national championship?
Wait a minute. I'm intrigued.
Doesn't that sound pretty good? So the college football playoff, we all know, is expanding to 12 teams this year. You win your Power 4 conference, your Core 4 conference, you get a first-round bye. That's great, isn't it? Well, guess what? So does the team that is seeded number 5 in the college football playoff, and the team that's seeded number 6, and probably the team that's seeded number 7 as well. Because if you made the college football or your conference championship game and you win, you're locked in, you get a bye. If you make your conference championship game and you lose, guess what? You just got your ass kicked, not on the scoreboard. Well, maybe on the scoreboard, but especially against a really tough physical football team. And then you got to turn around and go play again in just a couple of days. Well, that's not the case if you are one of those teams that's sitting just outside of the top 2 in your conference, third best team in the conference, especially when you're talking about the SEC and the Big Ten. That's the 2 situations where this scenario is going to come into play most often. But you still get a bye. You didn't have to play in your conference championship game, and you're going to get fairly preferential treatment when it comes to who it is you have to play. So
what if your records, what if, like, I hear what you're saying. Is there risk, though, associated with that? Of maybe
there's certainly risk. And I'm going to be clear and say, I'm not saying that coaches are going to scheme for this and try to achieve this, because that would be incredibly risky, right? Imagine coming down to the wire and you're in the SEC, and I'm just making this scenario up off the top of my head. Georgia and Texas are going to go play for the conference championship game. Third place behind them is Alabama.
Okay.
Well, Alabama has a very good chance of getting the 5 seed because they are the best team in the SEC that didn't go play in the conference championship game. And you would be hard pressed to argue that the third best team in the Big Ten is better than them, right? And you would also be hard pressed to argue that the third best team in the ACC or the Big 12 is better than Alabama. But when you actually go and look at the way the playoff is structured, that 5 seed, whoever it is, gets a really advantageous road in the college football playoff, because they'll be facing the 12 seed in round number 1, which will most of the time be the G5 representative. So let's call it Liberty. Let's call it Memphis. Let's call it whoever it is. So now you're Alabama. You're playing Liberty or Memphis.
Alabama.
You're going to kick the crap out of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you take on the 4 seed. That would be the worst, quote unquote, worst team out of the core 4 conferences that won their conference championship game, which is probably either going to be the Big 12 team. In this scenario, let's just call it Utah, or the ACC champion. Let's call it Clemson.
Yeah.
So now you're Alabama. You've taken a week off by not playing in a conference championship game. You've had, for all intents and purposes, a tune-up against a good game, group of 5 team, but they don't have the talent to match you. And then you're facing the weakest of the 4 conference champions. It's absolutely phenomenal position to find yourself in. And again, I'm not saying that the coaches are going to scheme for this, because you could lose a game. You could get seated lower because the committee thinks you're not worthy of it. But if you find yourself in that position, if the committee ranks you number 5, then I think you're set up very nicely. Compare that to going and winning your division in Major League Baseball.
Sure.
Now you've taken some time off, you've gotten your bye, but other teams around you are playing meaningful baseball, and they're sharp.
Yeah.
Right? And we've seen the wild card team, the team that's playing hot that didn't necessarily win the division, knock out the best team in the division multiple years in a row.
Sure. What's fascinating is when you look at it, you try to visualize in your head what could happen, because you brought up something earlier today when you and I were discussing this. You brought up something earlier off air about Alabama, and I think that a very intriguing situation could arise from this, because as you said, the four highest ranked conference champions are 1 through 4 and will receive a first round bye. The 5th conference champion will be seated where it was ranked, or at number 12 if it's outside the top 12 rankings. Mm-hmm. Here's where I'm interested in. Non-conference champions ranked in the top 4 will be seeded beginning at number 5. Because of this, the seeding 1 through 12 could look different than the Final Four rankings. I don't know that when you look at a team like Alabama, because you brought them up earlier, I don't think they win the – I don't think right now they win the conference. But if you're telling me that Alabama would still get a bye, let's say Bama loses to Georgia, because they do play each other. Am I right on that? Well,
yes, Alabama and Georgia
have
to
play in the SEC.
Regular season.
Regular season, yeah. If Bama were to lose to Georgia, and let's say finish second in the SEC, because I believe in my rankings, I had them finishing above Texas in my SEC rankings. Bama finishing 2, going back to your point, would get them a bye or no? If they finish 2 in the SEC?
It would get them. It would be an effective bye because you're not playing in the conference championship game.
Oh, okay. I see
it's not an on paper bye, unless and Madcraft brings up a point there. He says, wouldn't the second place finisher in the conference be ranked higher than the third? Unless specifically what they mean by this, and this is why you need a calculus degree to figure out the college football playoff now that it's 12. The specific language that says non-conference champions ranked in the top 4 will be seeded beginning at number 5. So you didn't win your conference. Yeah. You're ranked in the top 4. You're now going to be seeded number 5. It doesn't specifically say losers of the conference championship game, right? It doesn't. It does. I mean, so let's just say you've got Texas, Georgia playing for the SEC conference championship game, and they happen to be ranked number 1 and number 2 when they play for the SEC conference championship. That would say that the loser of that game starts ranked number 5, but it doesn't say anything regarding if the representatives in the conference championship game are, let's say, number 1 and number 6 in the college football playoff rankings.
Well, I do agree with Madcraft that there should be incentive, Diesel, for making it, unless, like, what happens if you just get the doors blown off of you?
Right.
In the conference title game.
Yeah, what if the race is so good coming down the stretch that 1, 2, and 3 in the conference are Georgia, Texas, Alabama. Georgia, Texas play. Georgia beats them by 40. You would be hard pressed to tell me that Alabama is not better than Texas after they just got beat by 40.
Sure. And that's the hard part of it. From there, if that were to happen, the committee, I guess it can't be a written rule because you have to leave the door open in that sense.
Sure.
Of if there's a blowout. Now, if it's a close game, to Madcraft's point, I do think there's incentive, and I do think that the SEC, there's a good chance right now on August 9th, there's a good chance, and I'd be willing to bet that the runner-up of the SEC in that SEC championship game is 5, right? Unless, do we believe the committee is going to give that to someone else? I know there are other conference games, and there are going to be other conference championship losers that are really good, but who does the committee always show favor to? I think that you're going to see 2 teams, 4. Well, let me back up. I think you're going to see the conference champion of the SEC obviously in the top 4, Diesel, but then the loser, as long as it's formidable and not a blowout, they've got to be at 5.
What I do like about the college football playoff rules are that the playoff bracket will follow the selection committee's rankings with no modifications made to avoid rematches with teams that may have been played during the regular season. So they claim that this is in the rules, that they cannot manipulate the rankings to avoid a conference rematch, which is, I think, was a fear a lot of people had, right? That they would manipulate it so that wouldn't happen again.
Well, it may have been, and I understand that. It's just fascinating because while you can, and I'm looking at these rules here, while you can create rules, at the same time, you do. I think it's going to be fascinating because you do have to be careful of not creating too many rules because you do want the committee to be able to adjust if they have teams that they do need to slide down past fifth.
It's in the bylaws.
Yeah. So the selection committee, let me read this and make sure I have this right. The selection committee will assign the 4 highest ranked conference champion. Okay, this will be done, making sure that on the bracket, so the 12 seed will play the 5. Playoff first round, 12-5, 9-8, 11-6, and 10-7. 1, 2, 3, 4 get a bye. Yeah, I think that you'll see. I think you'll see someone get an unintentional bye. Going back to your point, not on paper bye, but it's fascinating to see who that'll be and if it'll benefit them because Alabama, as we talked about, very well could be that team if they were to finish second in the SEC.
And see, this they've tried to get really cute and overcomplicate the living crap out of this.
Yeah.
And I see this is probably the impetus behind expansion to 16 rather quickly.
You think so?
Yeah, because I think we'll have situations like what we've seen with the Dodgers and the Braves both losing in their first round of the playoffs after they've sat with a bye for a little while. And you're going to see teams complaining. You're going to see a 1 through 4 seed go down to a team that didn't even play in their conference championship game, and they're going to say that's bogus. They got an extra week off. They had extra time to prepare. I mean, when you're in that scenario, you don't know exactly who you're going to be preparing for, but you have extra time to prepare. Like once the seedings come down, if you're the 4 seed, you're going to play either the 12 or the 5.
Yeah.
So you get to game plan for both in that point. And there's going to be time, right? There's going to be time between the conference championship games and the first round of the playoff, to the point where, you've got a staff whose job it is, all right, 6 of you go that way, 6 of you go that way.
Sure.
You plan for Liberty, you plan for Oklahoma.
I think that the newness of this, how last year when we saw the announcement on that Sunday last year, Diesel, when Florida State got left out, I don't think we've ever seen a bombshell type of announcement like that in terms of postseason play in college football. I don't think we'll have that same sort of bombshell this year. However, with there being a lot of unknowns when it comes to seeding and how the committee members will look at losers, because I think that's a fascinating aspect of it. Where do the losers of all the conference championships go? There's no rule that says right now, Diesel, there's no rule that says every loser of every conference championship will get in, but will fall somewhere between 5 and 12.
That's true.
Some may be on the outside looking in. So while we may not see the Florida State bombshell, the Florida State fan base get upset, I do believe you're going to have some conference championship losers get in and some get out, and I think that's where there'll be a major dispute.
Well, the fact that all of the core 4 conferences now are sans divisions, and they are putting the 2 best teams from each conference into their conference championship game, which avoids that scenario that this boogeyman that everybody was scared of, that like a 4-loss East Division champion beats the West Division champion that's undefeated. That didn't happen, right? Everybody was terrified that it was going to happen, but it never actually happened. So it's going to avoid that. So you should get number 1 and 2 from each conference into the conference championship game. And then unless something just earth-shattering happens, like you get beat by 40 and then all of a sudden the committee says, oh man, well, we were going to put Miami in. Sorry, no disrespect, Madcraft. We were going to put Miami in, but look what just happened to them. I mean, think about it this way. We've looked at a lot of teams and their strength of schedule and said that's a team that's likely to win a lot of games this year, but ultimately be untested by the time they get to the conference championship game. That might be their first real test of the season, right? Or, you may have only had one test and you passed that test, and that's great. But you had Sisters of the Poor all over your schedule outside of that in the ACC. So,
and that's what I'm afraid of.
What if Miami beats, and I don't have their schedule up in front of me, what if Miami beats Florida State in the regular season? They are 1-2 in the conference by virtue of Miami playing a weak conference schedule. And then Florida State comes back and beats the brakes off of them in the conference championship game. Could the committee then say, oh, wow, turns out Miami might not actually be all that good, and we're not sure that they should be in the 12. I mean, it's a possible scenario. And then you're right. You said it. There's no guarantee that both teams that played for the conference championship game will get in. I mean, we're gonna do an exercise later on in the show, Cole. Who is the highest ranked team in the preseason polls who you don't believe will make the college football playoff? I mean, there's a very high likelihood that there are teams who have great seasons who the committee just doesn't look at and think are all that good.
Madcraft says, I'd stop watching college football if that happened. That would be tragic. That would be tragic. But you know what? I hate to say this. I don't mean to pick on Florida State. But, while we had so much disagreement last year, Diesel, with Florida State getting left out, we'll never, and maybe I'm wrong, hopefully I am, I don't think we will ever have that sort of drama and uproar when it comes to a team getting left out of the playoff with an expanded playoff, because if you're the 13th best team, you're not going to sit there and make a big deal about getting out.
You are vastly underestimating.
You think
the
so?
People who the team that is number 13 beating on the table and saying, "Oh, we're better than number 12." What are you talking about? We're better than number 12. I mean, what if only one team from the Big 12 gets in, right? Let's say it's Utah, but Oklahoma State finishes 13 by virtue of getting punked in the conference championship game. Well, what if number 12 is a team that just limped into the playoff or got beat in their conference championship game, didn't look particularly good? You might say, hey, we looked a lot better than them. What do you mean? Why are we 13 and they're 12?
You're right. I mean, somebody is. You can't underestimate college football fans.
Yeah.
And whoever that 13th team is, what are you going to do? Say, well, you shouldn't have lost 2 games. You shouldn't have lost 3. I don't know how many losses that 12 team will have.
And then there's going to be fans bitching about the fact that the G5 representative got in. Like, we are Penn State. What do you mean we're not better than Liberty? That sucks. We're definitely better than Liberty. We should get into this thing. We're like, yeah, but that's the rules, bro. We gave them one spot. Sorry.
Texter 615 says the SEC big loser in the conference championship game is not missing the playoffs.
What if they get beat by 40, Texter? I mean, honestly, it could happen. We've looked at the college football playoff, in its semifinals and finals games, and these are all supposedly the top 4 teams in America, right? We've had blowout after blowout after blowout in the playoffs, and they've had weeks to prepare for one another.
And let me tell you what and real quick, we're going to run because we have Shane Connuck coming up. But I'll tell you what I hope doesn't happen, Diesel. My fear. I don't want this year, when this college football playoff gets here, I fear that we're going to go through the first few rounds, and then the final 4 teams are going to be the same 4 teams it would have been. That's what I don't want to happen. Because then,
but at least they would have earned it on the field.
They would have earned it, but then people will say, oh, well, look what we did. We expanded the playoff for nothing. But who knows? People are, like you said, people are going to complain regardless. Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer next. NASCAR is back in action this weekend. They have taken a brief hiatus, and our NASCAR expert, Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer, joins us now. Shane, it's been a while since I've heard your lovely voice. I hope you're well. And my question for you is the NASCAR ratings. Do they take a little bit of a bump now that we're back after that 2-week break?
Cole, I hope you're just as rested up as the drivers should be after these past couple of weeks. Now, I would assume that they are going to be as jazzed up because last year we had 5 races around this time. It was a little bit before. It was the end of July. 5 races were left. Chris Buescher went ahead and won 3 of those 5 races before we rolled into the playoffs. The first of those races was Richmond, and that is the race this Sunday. Going to this year, we only have 4 races left before the playoffs. With these past couple weeks off and with those final 4 playoff spots up for grabs, the racing should be just as aggressive as ever. But I do think there's going to be increased motivation for these final 4 weeks. And with Chris Buescher, who took that to heart at the end of the regular season last year in a precarious situation, just 17 points above the cut line, should be fun these next 4 weeks.
Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer covers NASCAR. Shane, we were talking about there just the couple of weeks off, and some of these drivers are going off and getting married. Some are taking long vacations. What are these drivers doing now to ensure that there's no rust for their return to the track? Right? It's like watching preseason football. There's practice reps, and then there's real game reps. What are they doing to make sure they don't lose that edge during the break?
I think a lot of these guys are trying to just get their mind kind of reset. Anytime during the week, they're having their normal routines, but these few weeks allowed for a kind of slight change in that pattern. And to your point, for these guys who are in these tough situations over the next few weeks, I think it allows for even more strategizing. These guys are going into meetings every week, not just their team members and crew guys, but these drivers are a big part of that because no matter for however much pit crews will prepare, crew chiefs will get everybody ready. All of that work is all dependent on that guy sitting with his foot on the gas pedal. And so these drivers, I think it depends on the individual person themselves, but there's a lot of different things that they could do in this kind of break because, again, they're the one who's in control of everything that happens with the whole team, regardless of how much data and research all these teams can kind of prepare for every track coming up. It's all on that driver to kind of get their own mind right.
Shane, what do you think the biggest storyline is heading into this last part of the season?
I think the biggest storyline of the Olympic break and the biggest storyline of right now is very much, and I'm sure we're getting to it, is about Major League Baseball coming to Bristol Motor Speedway next year. But the biggest storyline as we get to these next few weeks, it's that similar competitiveness because every year that they've instituted these playoffs going back to 2014, they called it the chase. There are all different scenarios that everybody's watching for. And this year, there's not one dominant driver. Last year, William Byron pretty quickly emerged as the wins leader. I feel like in other years, there's one or two or really one driver who just has the most wins or they have the most top 10 finishes. Not that they're all the way at the top of the standings, but this year, Kyle Larson has really appeared to be that driver. For the same reasons as last year, and we won 3 races early on, Byron could have been that guy again. Denny Hamlin, for more reasons than ever, has been that. And Christopher Bell is sitting there with 3 wins himself. And defending champion Blaney has got 2. So this year there's more parity in the Cup Series, I think, than there has ever been. Not because you have all different scenarios happening and it's a total crapshoot, but because you clearly have solid, strong contenders, then another group of perennial playoff candidates, and then other drivers who have their ability to earn those spots in any of these races, just like it's always been. We're starting to see it get more and more competitive for those final 4 spots while still having 12 drivers who have won this year and more than that who are capable of winning every single week.
Shane, NASCAR and baseball are 2 sports that are kind of suffering from the same viewership crisis. and they're teaming up to bring Major League Baseball to Bristol. You brought it up there, Braves and Reds. Who's going to benefit more from this one-off event, Major League Baseball or NASCAR?
I still think NASCAR is going to benefit more because Major League Baseball is as big as Major League Baseball is. I think at this point in 2024, most people who grow up in Tennessee who are baseball fans are baseball fans anyway. They probably go down to Atlanta for the same way that Braves fans from all over the South have always done, or whether they move down from the way they've been talking about how a lot of Reds fans live around there are going to be just as excited about this. I think what it does is that it really elevates NASCAR because it was a big deal for baseball when they played a game at Fort Bragg in Cary, North Carolina, years back. That was the first time they ever played a game here in the Tar Heel State. Back this past year when they played the first game in Iowa at the Field of Dreams. And now this season playing at Rickwood Field in Birmingham, Alabama, Major League Baseball is really trying to get into every single state and every single market in whatever way it can. And being that Major League Baseball is big and national enough, Bristol is now just another neutral site that baseball is going to. And the fact that it's going to allow for them to probably set the attendance record and have it be in a much bigger, all that uniqueness to it for baseball is awesome. But I think it's even just watching the press conference today, and they have Chipper Jones and Eric Davis and Major League Baseball greats there alongside guys like Kevin Harvick and guys like Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain. And it just feels like it's a big deal for NASCAR to be alongside Major League Baseball rather than the other way around.
Who do you think, I've asked you this once before, Shane, probably, I don't know, a month or two ago, but who do you think heading out of the break, what NASCAR driver or drivers has the most pressure on them to go ahead and get that win, lock themselves into the playoff before the playoffs get here?
Currently, Bubba Wallace, 7 points below the cut line, and then you get Chase Briscoe, Kyle Busch, and Todd Gilliland. So as you start to get further and further down, it's a lot of drivers who really would need that one win, and that might be an even more unlikely scenario now. But you're going to be seeing guys like Chris Buescher and Ty Gibbs racing more aggressively, and Ross Chastain for another one, racing even more aggressively than they have all season long, because those are drivers who are regularly in contention. And at this point, they want to win their way. They don't just want to get a couple points, be above, have another top 10, risk wrecking late and getting knocked below that cut line. Those guys really want to win more than ever. And so I'm going to specifically say a rookie or now second-year driver in Ty Gibbs, who has had the runs, has had the strong results in qualifying, couple of poles this year, but just has not been able to find that win. If he wants to make it into the playoffs, he can easily fall below that cut line any of these weeks, especially with only 4 left now. But we've talked about him a lot, but Martin Truex Jr. retiring at the end of this season has still not won a race this year. He's sitting in 13th place in the standings, 108 points above that playoff cut line. But it feels like Truex potentially missing the playoffs in his final season is something that's not off the table. It's unlikely if he could just have a few. He seems to know how to just, even if he comes in 15th to 20th the next few weeks, he might be fine, and not necessarily win. But I think that if Truex can get to victory lane at Richmond, a place where he's won 3 times since 2019, that would be a cool story, and that's a very likely outcome this weekend.
Find him on Twitter at Shane_Connuck. Shane, you're there in Charlotte working for the Charlotte Observer, so you're near the NASCAR Hall of Fame. I've never been into it. I don't know if Cole has ever been into it. Is there a corner of that facility or a room that you just have a special affinity for, that you walk in, you're like, this is my spot?
My favorite part of the NASCAR Hall of Fame is where the idea, like every other Hall of Fame, when you get to that room where they have all of the bucks in football and you have all the plaques up and you can find the Hall of Famer, the way that NASCAR does it is you walk into this room and you just see not even just plaques, but it's like a whole real life kind of depiction of that driver. And then they have a phone where you can pick up the phone and you hear kind of an announcer breaking down aspects of that driver's career, and just being up there and just listening and watching videos of Dale Earnhardt's career and hearing the voices in it is just such a cool experience that we have here in Uptown Charlotte.
That's amazing. I've never been to it, and Diesel, you and I were really close.
We drove right past it.
I was going to say a couple of weeks ago and didn't even make the stop. Shane, do you think that with going back to what they're doing and incorporating MLB and NASCAR, do you think that that's something that you would foresee in the future becoming more of a regular occurrence with the Braves and the Reds or any team, or is it going to, in your mind, going to stay more of a one-hit wonder?
This will probably be more of a one-hit wonder like the other Major League Baseball games that it played at neutral sites over the past few years. But what I think that all of this is going to lead to is Major League Baseball's expansion into new cities and new states. And at this point, it's becoming clearer and clearer that you look at all the Southeast not having a major league team, that whether it ends up being Nashville, Charlotte, that someone will end up with a team somewhere. But events like this, knowing how big NASCAR is to people in this community, they talked about it a lot at the press conference they had in Bristol this morning, that it's the country music capital, and how intertwined baseball and country music have always been, the same way NASCAR and country music and baseball and NASCAR. And so everything all ends up helping each other. But I do think that even though this will be a one-year baseball game at Bristol, it's a spectacle, that it's going to lead to increased exposure for Major League Baseball in parts of the country like Tennessee.
Shane, I'm looking at a rendering here for the first time. We were trying to guess yesterday how exactly they were going to situate this baseball field inside of Bristol Motor Speedway. And it's for those who haven't seen the image yet, home plate will be basically right in front of the start-finish line on the infield. They're going to have a small smattering of stands that kind of wrap directly behind home plate down the left field line, and then they're going to sell a horseshoe of fans from, this looks like it's coming out of turn 4 all the way around to going into turn 3. Have you heard anything at all as far as how expensive these tickets are going to be and just how like on demand or in demand they're going to be?
Have not heard yet. All that's been kind of talked about thus far is just kind of laying out the field, laying out the idea that this place can fit 146,000 people. And that would shatter the attendance record for Major League Baseball, which was set over 100,000 for a spring training game years back. But yeah, that field between turns 3 and 4 of the track, 330 feet down the line, 384 to the left field alley, 400 to dead center, 375 to the right field alley. Just baseball field wedged onto the infield at Bristol Motor Speedway. Again, this is going to be something that's going to try to draw a lot of people to it. So even though it's going to be a spectacle and a one-of-a-kind event, I just can't foresee tickets being too steep of a price, because it's probably just as, if not more important, to have as many people from as many places as you can have inside of the last great Coliseum on August 2nd.
Shane, is corporate going to send you to this race?
I would. If there's an assignment, I would want.
They better. I'll tell you this. They ain't selling 150,000 tickets to see the Braves and the Reds. Let me just put it out there. I'll go ahead and make the prediction. Oh, and by the way, speaking of Braves, before we let you run, Shane, the Braves gave your Mets every chance, and they're going to give them plenty more chances, but they're a dumpster fire. Your Mets are being handed the wild card on the silver platter.
I don't know if the Mets are ever going to be handed anything, but I'll try to enjoy any moment that you can enjoy with that fan.
Great stuff, man. We appreciate you hopping on with us, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Always a pleasure. Can't wait, boys.
Thank you, Shane. That is Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer. Look him up at Shane_Connuck. Covers NASCAR. He also covers the Charlotte 49ers. I've seen him tweet and post about the Carolina Panthers and other things in high school football there
everywhere
in the state of North Carolina. He is really a fantastic follow. When we come back, there's a lot to catch up on in the sports world. We'll hit that next, our Daily Wires. You know, Cole, we only get 12 segments on this show to talk sports.
What?
It's hard to get to everything.
12?
Yeah, only 12.
Sad gum.
Yeah, 3 segments an hour, 4 hours. Check my math on that, 12. Yeah, so we got to do what we're doing here, our Daily Wires. This is the buzz happening around the sports world. Let's do a little whip around, shall we? The Patriots have released Juju Smith-Schuster.
Adios.
If you are the Carolina Panthers and you are bereft of wide receiver talent, would you be interested?
You can get him at a good price. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
If they can get him at a good price.
China has retaken the medal count lead, not the overall medal count, but the gold medal lead. Oh, excuse me. This has just been updated in the last 5 minutes. The U.S. has pulled back even. So I don't know that's one of the hardest things about trying to follow the Olympics is there's so many events.
We need that screen on a TV that updates in here so we know.
Because like 10 minutes ago, it said China was up by 2, and now the United States has pulled back. Even in golds, we are up by almost 30 total medals. We are now even with China in golds. The Atlanta Braves, who are 60-54 on the season, will play the Rockies tonight at 8:40. Maybe, just maybe, they'll go on another run and make us look stupid again. Like the moment we give up on this team, they'll go on a run. Listen, and then the moment we say, "Ooh, this team is actually on a little bit of a run," they'll crap the bed.
If they can't beat the Rockies, then my point to lead off the show today proves itself. If they cannot,
what are the Rockies? What's the record?
I'm going to guess the Rockies are 37. I'm going to guess they have 37 wins, completely off the top of my head.
You're not far off. They have 42 wins.
Okay,
42 and 74.
They suck.
Last place in the NL West. Watch the Braves get blanked.
Give me the Rockies.
By the Rockies. Yeah, exactly. The Delta flight that was carrying the Carolina Panthers home last night from that shellacking they took in Boston ran off the taxiway. No one was injured, but they didn't get off the plane until about 3:45 this morning, Cole.
Hey, and real quick, this is not to go down a rabbit trail here, but did you see the video of the plane in Belize that fell out of the sky?
Don't talk to me about this. I got to get on a flight tomorrow.
Oh, crap. Sorry.
Bruh.
I was going to show you the video during the break, but I won't. I'm sorry. Hey, pretend like I didn't say that.
Okay.
Rewind.
Okay. If I see the word Boeing on the side of the plane, I'm not getting on it. In case you missed it, Team USA came back from down 17 yesterday to defeat Serbia 95-91. Suck it, Jokic. We're better than you.
That's right. Finally, we beat them.
Steph Curry put up 36 points in that game. LeBron had 16. In the NFL preseason last night, the Carolina Panthers were defeated 17-3 by the New England Patriots. I mean, it was basically just a fart in the wind kind of performance for the Panthers last night. Yeah. They looked bad, procedurally not good. Receivers who we thought were improving over last season were dropping the ball all over again. I mean, it was just ugly football all around by the Carolina Panthers. But Joe Milton for the Patriots, well, he looked pretty good, and there's a good chance he makes this team. And if the Patriots are dumb enough as QB4 to leave him off the roster, whoever snatches him up is going to have a really solid backup.
And that's the whole deal with the Patriots last night. They have some really intriguing storylines, and they kind of have to play all their guys. But Panthers, maybe they'll play Bryce.
Let's see. The Giants beat the Lions 14-3. Anything to say about that game?
Yeah, I watched a little bit of it. That's about it.
There you go. Let's see here. Tonight, there are 3 games in the NFL preseason. Texans and Steelers, Falcons at the Dolphins, and Eagles at the Ravens.
Eagles-Ravens should be intriguing.
Really?
2 good teams, yeah.
Okay.
I'll watch.
It's hard to get hyped about the preseason at all because most of these teams aren't playing anybody. So, correct. We've spent our entire offseason, Cole, talking about the starters. And then what do? They don't give us the starters.
Right.
So
you got to wait 3 more weeks.
Yeah, it's like I know the NFL, they're so good at getting ratings around the calendar, but it's just like the preseason is kind of
Yep.
It's there. People pay attention to it because they're starved for football, like you said earlier. Mm-hmm. But it's bad football. And these are things, honestly, that I think they could figure out in joint practices, but they show it to us. I don't like them. Team USA will go for the gold tomorrow at 3:30 against France. They're looking to win their 17th gold medal in men's basketball if Team USA loses to France, I'm moving out of this country.
I'm excited. I'm really excited. Like, I'm hyped after the 17-point comeback from Chef Curry yesterday. Having a chance to go win gold, they should beat France. But Serbia showed that there are some vulnerabilities, if you will, with Team USA. And I think I'm looking forward to this, man. I really am. Like, first Olympic event, Diesel, that I'm actually looking forward to.
As the Brandon Ayuk trade drama continues for the San Francisco 49ers, they're adding a veteran wide receiver to the mix. They're signing a Robbie Chosen, according to his agents. What do you know about Robbie Chosen?
He was chosen by the GM. That's all I know.
There you go. And last one for you. This is a sad one. Golf legend Chi Rodriguez has passed away. Chi was famous, Cole. If you've ever seen the video, he hit a putt and then he held out his club like it was a fencing sword, and he had the hand up and he was fencing, and then he does the thing where he slides it down into his hand, cool, like he's resheathing a sword.
I feel like that's something I'd see on Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, the guy just had a ton of personality. He was really, really fun to watch, and that's just sad to see Chi passed away. Apparently, he had been dealing with some complications after a heart surgery and a lot of just other issues that kind of compiled on Chi. So we're sad for him and sad for his family.
John Dog text in on the text line, which you can do so as well, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. John Dog says 22 more days until them dogs go hunting for their 4th national championship. Let's go with some football. How about that? How about that, John Dog? 22 days away. And speaking of text line, coming up next, 5 o'clock fight. Get those texts ready. It's time to fight it out. Diesel and I must disagree, and you decide who wins. Appreciate you being a part of the program. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. It's time to fight every single day. We have to fight it out. And you may ask, how in the world can we possibly come up with something else to fight about today? Well, I'm glad you asked. You, the Tolos, in a few minutes, will tell you how you can submit a fight. And Diesel and I, listen, with sports, food, everybody disagrees on everything in this world. So it's very easy to find something to argue about. But it is the 5 o'clock fight, and let's get right into it.
It's an all-out slugfest, and nobody's leaving unscathed.
No, you're good. So pull that down, pull the main one down, and then fire the intro again.
It's an all-out slugfest, and nobody's leaving unscathed. 3 topics, 1 winner. It's the 5 o'clock fight on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
If this is your first time joining us on the 5 o'clock fight, I want to tell you how you can participate. I know we have some new Tolos on the stream. It looks like, is that Brother Contreras, Diesel, in the stream?
Yeah, welcome to Brother Contreras.
Good to see him on the stream.
Absolutely.
New Tolos each and every day. This is the 5 o'clock fight. So what happens is there's 3 rounds. Diesel and I must disagree on every single round. And you, the Tolo, that stands for turn it on, leave it on. You decide who wins and who loses each round. It's time now. Let's get it started with round 1.
Round 1, fight.
All right, Diesel, this one's a very interesting question because I just had this happen to me not long ago. And I think you had a similar situation you were telling me about.
I did.
If a restaurant messes up your order, are you brave enough to send it back, or do you just eat it as it is?
You know, we're dealing with some pretty high inflation in this country right now. Everything's expensive. Food is expensive. The gas to get to the restaurant is expensive. You should get what you pay for. You should get what you order. And so, yeah, I send it back if it's not right. I always send it back if it's not right.
So let me tell you, not to throw a wrench in this 5 o'clock fight. The question is, am I brave enough to send it back? You're right. You're right. You should get what you pay for. However, I don't. I don't send it back. I was at a chicken wing place not long ago, and I'm not going to throw their name out there because I don't want to throw them under the bus and give them a bad rap on this local radio station. But I was at a chicken wing place. Ordered 6 wings, right? 3 of them lemon pepper, 3 of them barbecue. Guess what? I get all barbecue.
Oh,
no lemon pepper. I love lemon pepper. I didn't get my lemon pepper wings. However, I looked over. It was a really long line. And I said, you know what? I'm eating all barbecue. I didn't send them back.
You wuss.
You know what? I think it's going to take long. I'm going to piss somebody off. You're right. I should get what I order. I just choose not to.
I mean, we all grew up watching the movie Waiting, right? That's the horror story. It's like why you won't drive behind a logging truck, because we all saw Final Destination. We know what could happen. I mean, I don't know that I've ever heard a story about a logging truck losing its payload on the car behind it.
That'd be tough.
But in my mind, it's going to happen as soon as I get behind that truck. So I don't get behind those trucks. We've all seen the movie Waiting that says the kitchen staff hates it when somebody sends an order back and they're going to mess with your food. But I don't know. I try to trust in people. I try to trust them that it's not going to happen to me.
Yeah, I try to as well, but it's tough. I just choose not to, but maybe I need to change my ways. Maybe I just need to send it back. That's round 1. Round 2.
Round 2, fight.
Bryce Young, Diesel, in 2023. He threw for 11 touchdowns. Obviously not a good rookie season for Bryce Young, to say the least. In 2024, I'm going to set the magic number at 17. Over, under 17 touchdowns for Bryce Young in 2024.
Now, are we – so 17's a push? We're not going 16 and a half? As the over-under, 16 and a half? Or do you want to set it at 17 and a half?
17 and a half.
17 and a half.
17 and a half.
I'm going under. Oh,
really?
God, I'm going under. He's got a young receiving core, a lot of inexperience there. I'm not just saying that they're not potentially good, but I don't think there's any way he reaches 17. Now, hopefully it's because he's getting some production out of his running backs, right? And he doesn't have to throw for 18 touchdowns, but I don't think he hits that. Yeah, he doesn't. He's not going to hit 18. No way.
So he threw for 11 last year, and I'm going to go over 17 and a half, which is 18. I'm not going to go any higher than that. Trust me. I'm not crazy. Okay?
Over, but just barely.
Just barely. I mean, the question's 17 and a half. So I'll go 18, which would mean he'd have to throw for 7 more touchdowns. 7 more touchdowns, if I did the math correct. You know, I was never good at math. I think Bryce Young can throw for 7 more touchdowns in 2024 in a 17-game season. Throwing for 7 more touchdowns with the addition of some free agents, also Xavier Legette. Hopefully he'll have a better offensive line because we all know it was absolutely terrible last year. It is a stretch. It certainly is a stretch, and I'm not going to deny that. However, I do think Bryce takes a leap in 2024, and I'll go over 17 and a half. But like I said, I'm not going far over. I'm going to stop at 18. Let's not get crazy here. But he's got to go. He's got to go up. He can't get any worse, can he?
Yeah. I very much think that he could. Passing touchdowns last year, 2023. You know, Dak threw for 36 touchdowns last year, right?
It's a lot.
He was a monster.
Yeah.
And to hit 17 according to 2023 numbers would rank him in between Justin Fields and Kirk Cousins.
Ooh.
At 19 and 20 in the NFL. This list only goes to 25, I guess, to save Bryce Young the embarrassment of being listed 26th or worse. You know, Jake Browning threw for 12 touchdowns. Josh Dobbs threw for 13 touchdowns last year. Joe Flacco had 13 touchdowns.
Joe Flacco threw for more touchdowns than Bryce Young.
Even Joe Burrow threw for more touchdowns. He was out for most of the season.
How Joe Burrow threw for more touchdowns from the hospital? He threw for more touchdowns from the hospital bed. That's bad, Bryce. I mean,
it's bad.
You're right.
It's hurt. Bad. I mean, the good news is, you know, getting 18 or more touchdowns, it's still not even going to get him in the top third of the league. It's not going to get him in the top half of the league.
So bad.
Justin Fields had 16 touchdowns last year, and he sucks.
He does. So he better have more than 11. Oh, God. 11's bad.
If he doesn't have more than 15 this year, we start having the real question next draft.
Oh,
are we looking at another quarterback?
100%.
Because if you go 2 years, now granted it would be 2 years under 2 different OCs.
Yeah, but still.
And so you may look at it and say, all right, well, we gotta go find our Joe Milton, like a good quality backup who could be the guy if Bryce is not the guy. Maybe
and to
you
make
give
matters worse, Houston goes and wins Super Bowl. Round.
Oh my God. Oh my God. You just depressed me.
They could have
had him.
They could have had him.
Thanks, Dave Tepper.
No.
Dumbass. No. I'm going to call him Dumbass Dave until he proves me wrong.
Well, I don't know that he'll ever prove you wrong.
Final round. Fight.
Will we ever, Diesel, round 3, will we ever see an Olympic men's basketball team as stacked as we see this year? LeBron James, Steph Curry, Anthony Davis, Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, it's an incredible roster. And I didn't finish my statement. Minnesota Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards. There's so many guys that make this roster as stacked as it is. Will we ever see something close to this in the future?
So we're basing this question on feel?
Just feel, yeah.
Just feel, okay. And we're looking for, I could be a smart ass and say, well, we have already had that. We already had the dream team, right? They were more stacked than this roster was. But going strictly looking forward,
yeah.
Oh God! I mean, we're asking in the future
because LeBron and Curry are not far.
Yeah, LeBron and Steph. We need 2 more guys to step up and be as heralded as those 2 are. Oh man, that's I mean, I have to say yes, just because we continue to hype the as we go through time, right? So whether it's, Anthony Edwards, whether it's whoever it might be going forward, that's going to be the new guy. So I'm going to say yes. Yeah, I'm going to say we'll have another team as hyped as this.
I say no way Jose will never see another Olympic men's basketball team with the star-studded roster that we've seen this year, the star power. LeBron, Steph, Anthony Edwards, Anthony Davis. It's just stacked, man, and it's nasty. Even the bench, even a guy coming off the bench.
Well, that nasty team was struggling against Serbia.
I know.
That's one NBA All-Star on that team, and it took all of them to beat that guy.
They should be beating everybody badly.
That's embarrassing what happened yesterday.
I agree with you. They should be dominating. However, I say no. We won't see. We'll see good teams. Don't get me wrong. We'll definitely see good teams. I just don't think you'll see the star power that you'll see that you see this year. So it's a fascinating question. I'm going to recap the rounds, but first I want to tell you how you can suggest a fight.
What do you want Diesel and Co-Bryson to fight about next?
If you've got an ass, I'll kick it.
Submit your topics to Diesel at thefanupstate.com. Subject line, fight on The Fan Upstate.
All right, quick recap. While I'm recapping, get your votes in 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Also, we're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. You can get your votes in there as well. Round one was if a restaurant messes up your order, are you brave enough to send it back? Diesel says, yeah, I paid for it. I'm going to send it back. I say, no, I'm not brave enough. I'm a chicken. It's what I am. Round two. In 2023, Bryce Young threw for 11 touchdowns. In 2024, over under 17.5. Diesel says, no, under. I say he's got to throw for over 17, right? And I think he throws 18. We'll see. But I'm not very confident in that answer, if I'm being honest. But I will say go over on Bryce 17.5, 2024. And then the final round, will we ever see an Olympic men's basketball team as stacked as we have this year? Diesel says, yeah. I say no way in where. This one is about as good as they come, even though they haven't been playing up to expectations. I don't want to go to the stream, Diesel, because people are already I'm just not going to do it. Madcraft's already making me mad.
I already got the sweep from Madcraft on the stream. Thank you much. Madcraft? He says Cole would send his corn back if it didn't have enough mayo on it. Round two is just comedy and Jimmy Buckets.
You don't have any faith in Bryce Young, Madcraft? I mean, come on, man. Round two, comedy. Where is your hope for Bryce, for BY?
Bag that hope for me, Madcraft. I got to cover this team. Please.
Diesel's got to do an hour or 2 hour?
Hour. God, thank God it's only an hour.
What would you do if it was like 3?
I would probably say no.
Doesn't matter what you pay, I'm not doing that.
I'm gonna be real with you. Like, it's a challenge covering a team like that when they're that bad. When we got down to the middle part of that season last year, and it was like, okay, they scored their one touchdown of the game. That's all they're gonna get. They don't have the competency to go out and score a second touchdown in a game. I mean, like they were just such a bad football team all around. And it felt like week in and week out, just a broken record saying this team sucks. This team sucks. Dave Tepper's a jerk. Yeah.
It's true, though. And Madcraft, you're making fun of my mayo on corn. You sent me a message and said that you were going to try it. And I never heard back. I think what you're doing is you've tucked that tail between your legs and you found out that it was really good, but you didn't want to admit it. You didn't want to admit it that Cole was right and mayo on corn is the best condiment ever. So you just didn't respond. That's what I'm going to do today. Let's see. Text line, you have that pulled up? Any Cole wins?
We do.
If they're by the way, if it's just sweeps, let's just move on to the next segment.
Let's see here. We got let's see. The Panthers are about as competent at football as a certain Delta pilot is about keeping the plane on the taxiway, says one texter. G says Diesel wins round 1. Cole wins number 2 and 3. How about that? This comes from John Dog. He says round 1 Diesel, round 2 Diesel. Dak Shepard won't hit 17.5 either. Round 3 Cole. Sorry, Cole, just joking about Dak Shepard.
John Dog. You're giving Diesel the win.
And John Dog, I can't tell if John Dog is intentionally making this mistake, but it is Dak with a K, not an X.
Let's see.
And let's see. Another texter here says, this comes from Bo. He says, Diesel rounds 1, inflation or no, it goes back. Round 2, Diesel. I don't think I have seen Bryce make a completion over 40 yards. Cole, you were a dumb blonde today.
Oh, God. I'm getting smoked.
So I don't know if I got the sweep on this one because he didn't give us a round 3 score. Did he? No. He didn't give us a round 3 vote.
No need to.
But I got 1 and 2. That's all that matters.
He already won. Corn Chip, though, does. See, that's why I like Corn Chip, man. He's got a great name. Corn Chip, Tolo Corn Chip.
Yep.
Is a great name. And he says it came down to the wire today. Get it? Wire?
That's the name of the show.
It is. But I'm going to give Cole the win. Tolo Corn Chip. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. Oh, by the way, I think I told you. I think I told you on text message. But Tolos, you got to step your game up, and I'll tell you how. The other night, I ran into a Tolo, and I did not know that I was in the presence of a Tolo until the Tolo yelled to me, "Tolo," and I said, "Wait a minute, what?" I was shocked. I turned around, said, "Listens every day. If you see us in public." I mean, we've got that's the war chant, right? That's the war cry. You got to start yelling that Tolo so that if you see me in public, if you see Diesel in public, you got to let us know that you're a Tolo. T-shirts printed, hats printed.
Love it.
We need to get our sponsors to get in on that. Tolo T-shirts, man.
Absolutely. I know you guys want that merch. You want that sweet merch.
Sir, hey, real quick. Do we not have a Tolo out there who owns or runs some kind of print shop? I mean, come on. That's the perfect kind of trade-off right there.
Got to.
A little free advertising for some free merch, Tolo merch.
Yeah, let's see if we can make that happen.
I like it.
When we come back, Cole, this is a fascinating. It took me longer to prep this segment than any other segment of the show today. Who will be the highest AP preseason coaches poll rated team that will not make the college football playoff? That's next. 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and everywhere you are on the free Odyssey app. This might be the most highly debatable segment of the day, Cole.
Wait a minute. This segment more than Bryce Young's 17 and a half touchdowns? Are you kidding me?
More than sending food back?
I trust you.
So the coaches poll is out. We've seen the top 25. Okay, at this point, like none of this really matters.
Sure.
There's going to be a lot of games played that will
preseason polls.
Right, just like all preseason polls. There's going to be games. There's going to be teams who are ranked in the top 20 who are going to lose in the first 2 weeks of the season, and they're going to be all the way to the back of the bus. But I want you and I to put our predictive hats on.
Okay.
At this point, and predict who do we think will be the highest coaches poll rated team that will miss the college football playoff.
God, this is
tough. So we're predicting resume. We're also predicting conference championship winners. We're also predicting what the college football playoff committee will do about 15 weeks early.
So the highest ranked team in this poll that will miss the top 12.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, you got to look at it. You got to look at it like this too, Cole. There's only 7 at-large spots available. So you can't just put every SEC team that's ranked in the top 20 of the preseason poll in there because they can't take all of the 7 at-large spots, or the likelihood of them doing that is extremely low, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go down the list here, and I'm going to see if you can make a case, a real legitimate predictive case as to whether or not that team will make the college football playoff. And if you don't believe that they do, we'll see how far we get down the list before you say, that's it.
Okay,
that is the highest
ranking.
ranking.
Yes or no to making the playoff?
Yes, you're saying yes or no to making the playoff.
Okay.
So, again, you got to consider their record or their schedule and where you think they're going to be by the end of the season.
Okay.
Okay. Number 1, Georgia.
Let me think about it. I'm kidding.
Okay, bit over.
Yes, they will 110%.
Yeah.
Barring the stadium catching on fire and Carson Beck, moving to Jamaica, yes, they'll make the playoff.
I think that's pretty much a lock. They've got the best roster in the game. They have an extremely difficult schedule. Number 8 strength of schedule in the country, but this team is built to weather a schedule like that. They're built to weather tough losses.
Mm-hmm.
Now, forgive me, I don't know who Georgia's backup quarterback is, but every single year they've had a backup step up and just be elite. So I have to believe that whoever's sitting behind Carson Beck is going to be phenomenal, right? So if Carson Beck goes down, maybe they struggle for a game. But if he's like out for a season-ending injury by week number 4, whoever behind him, I think could still be good enough to get that roster into the playoff.
No, I'm with you. There's no debating there.
Okay. Preseason number 2, Ohio State.
100%.
Lock.
I think they're in the national championship.
Okay. I like Ohio State a lot. How about number 3, Oregon?
Also 100%. They're a lock.
Dan Lanning's just a monster.
And they've got an amazing quarterback, as we talked about earlier today. So, so far we're on the same page.
Okay. Madcraft is playing along at home. He's got his answer here. I'm not going to read it because I don't want to influence you.
Okay.
How about number 4, Texas?
So they do get in.
Okay.
But you know what I have a hunch on?
They would be the second SEC team at this
They'd
point.
be the second SEC team. But I just have a strange hunch that Texas is going to disappoint us again.
Really? So you're saying they're in, but they're an at-large, potentially sitting in that 9, 10, 11
Maybe
slot?
it's just like my stomach talking, 5:30, I'm getting hungry, I'm thinking weird things. But I don't know, man. They always disappoint us.
I think they're a lock.
Do. They're a lock.
I think they're a lock.
I'm not going to do it. I'm trying to create drama. They're a lock.
Okay. This is the one, Cole, that I had some initial apprehension and an initial thought, maybe this would be the team that doesn't make it. But then I start looking at the schedule, and I just can't find 3 losses on their schedule. Alabama at number 5, in or out?
This is an intriguing one. And you know what? I've said it several times, Diesel. The best thing that could have happened to Kalen DeBoer is the expansion of the playoff.
Sure.
And guess what? I've said it multiple times this week. I don't think they're taking a back seat to anyone. They are going to get in my opinion. Alabama will be the second or third team in the SEC to make the playoff.
I mean, this is like, could you imagine if Jeff Gordon got into an IndyCar? He's a guy who knows how to go fast, right?
Uh-huh.
It's not his car. It's very different from a stock car, but it's still a car. And elite drivers know how to drive fast cars.
They do.
So that's what Kalen DeBoer is doing. He is not the driver of that car, of the Alabama bus, but he is an elite driver who's climbing into a top-notch vehicle with Jalen Milroe. I can't find 3 losses on that schedule that would push Alabama all the way out of the top 12. How about Ole Miss at 6?
So Ole Miss is the one that really I had to take a step back. I don't think Ole Miss is going to be a world beater. I don't think they're going to be one of the elite Final Four teams. However, you look at their schedule. Furman, Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, Georgia Southern, and Kentucky. Those are the first 5 games, Diesel.
Yeah.
Those are the easiest 5 games you could have. No offense to Furman, no offense to Georgia Southern and Wake and Middleton and Kentucky. Oh, and then, okay, after the first 5 games, who do you get? South Carolina. They're going to start 6-0.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets interesting with Ole Miss. They go to LSU. And then they host Oklahoma. And then 2 weeks later, they play Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
They've got LSU, Oklahoma, and Georgia all in a 4-week stretch. If they lose 2 of those, which I think it's possible. They're losing to Georgia, but they could lose to Oklahoma. They could lose to LSU. At LSU, they could lose that game. I don't know if a 3-loss team – I'll tell you this. No, let me back up. A 3-loss Ole Miss isn't getting in. They better make sure they don't drop one to Arkansas or Florida or Mississippi State. I really, really want to say Ole Miss is the highest ranked team that misses the playoff.
Really?
I think so.
Well, in your scenario, though, in your setup, they start hot, they win a lot of games, and then they hit the real meat grinder of that schedule.
And what's crazy, though, they avoid Alabama. They don't have to play Alabama this year, and that's huge. I mean, that's huge. They don't play Texas.
You're saying they get to that tail end of that schedule. That's when things get tough. They drop a couple of games, and then the committee says there's no way a team that's just lost 2 out of their last 3 or 2 out of their last 4, whatever it is, that they deserve to be in.
A 2-loss, they're going to lose to Georgia.
Yep.
If they beat LSU and Oklahoma, obviously there's no doubt.
I think they got the Hogs to do it, to beat those 2.
And they could. But if I'm having to pick somebody, and I'm trying to disagree with you at the same time and not pick the same team you pick, Ole Miss could. You know how I was talking about Texas a minute ago? Ole Miss, for as much as we love Lane Kiffin, for as much as we love that storyline, they have yet to actually put their money where their mouth is. And, sometimes we can't believe it until we see it. I haven't seen it.
Sure.
So it's hard for me to visualize Ole Miss being in the playoff. And I understand there's answers that, people texting in and putting on the stream that might be an easier pick. But I think Ole Miss could disappoint us once again.
I think Ole Miss, with just the vast amount of talent that Lane Kiffin has brought in via the transfer portal, is going to have the best season in Ole Miss football history they've ever had.
Good. Could.
I'm with you on the Georgia loss. I think after that, Ole Miss is just so good. I don't see them dropping the LSU or the Oklahoma games. Just something about there's just something about this team. I'm just getting this hunch about Ole Miss this year. So you've got Ole Miss number 6 being the first team out.
This is such a hard game, but I think so.
It is.
It's a hard task.
So I'm going to keep going down the line. I want to get your thoughts on these as well. But I've got Notre Dame is preseason number 7. I think they're going to lose in week 1 to A&M. But then their schedule the schedule after that, I think softens up considerably. September 28th, they play Louisville. November 9th, Florida State. November 30th, Southern Cal. And Southern Cal could be pulverized meat at that point. So I think my crystal ball tells me Notre Dame loses in week 1 and then goes on a run after that. And because it's Notre Dame, even though we've seen Notre Dame look bad in the playoffs every single time they're in the playoffs, the committee keeps putting them in there because they know it's a brand.
Notre Dame should be the answer here, right? Like they should be the team that we give. But to your point, let's say they beat A&M Diesel to start the season here in just a couple of weeks. I mean, what flavor do you like? Vanilla cupcake or chocolate cupcake or sprinkles on your cupcake or Miami of Ohio on your cupcake? Or, I mean, really, their schedule's pitiful. NIU, Purdue, Miami of Ohio, Georgia Tech, Navy. The only game that really matters is Florida State. You're right. They'll probably beat LSU, USC. They play Army. It's a bad schedule, you know? So based on that, they'll probably get in, won't they?
So in my mind, yes. I've got Georgia in, Ohio State in, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, Notre Dame, all in. 1 through 7, all in. And not to copy Madcraft, but as I look at this Michigan schedule, which is really tough, they play Texas, Oregon, and at Ohio State. First year of a new head coach, Sharon Moore. First year of a new quarterback, Alex Orji, who no one has ever heard of. Orji, O-R-J-I. Is that not how you say it?
No,
Did I say it wrong?
I just caught me off guard.
There's no other way to say it.
I was just trying to get you to say that word again.
Orgy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's titillating now? I think it's Michigan. Michigan at number 8 is going to drop a couple of games, and it'll be their biggest games, right? It'll be the ones that are proving whether or not the rubber meets the road, and you're a good enough football team to get into the 12-team playoff.
So you're right. They're not beating Texas.
Nope.
They're not beating. They play Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State.
Yep.
Regular season.
Yep. And of course, I mean, it's Ohio State, so this is the year that blood is in the water. If you're Ohio State and you can't get Michigan in the first year of a new head coach and quarterback, shut the doors, lock them, tear the stadium down, start putting NASCAR races in there or something. I don't know.
So I agree. They're not making the playoff. I just think Ole Miss higher ranked. I don't think they'll make it. But you're right. That's a brutal stretch there.
So I've got, not to take a ton of time on the rest of these, I've got Penn State in because I did have Penn State beating Ohio State this year, and I think that'll essentially act as the de facto conference championship game. It'll be what puts Penn State into the conference championship game.
Okay.
I've got Florida State out. I don't have the faith in DJ Uiagalelei. As a matter of fact, I said earlier this week I thought Clemson was going to beat Florida State on the road. So I think by default Clemson will be in the conference championship game, and they'll be the one to win it and get in. I've got Missouri out because Missouri does have some really tough games down the stretch. They don't play. I mean, they play a relatively garbage schedule, and the 1 or 2 tough games that they've got this year, I don't see them winning. So I don't think their resume is going to be strong enough to earn them one of the only 7 at-large spots. I've got LSU out. I've got Utah in. They're 13.
They have a favorable schedule.
They do. And I think they're going to be by far the strongest team in the Big 12. I mean, this is preseason number 13. They're going to win a bunch of games, and they're going to end up probably in that 1 to 6 range at the lowest. I'd be shocked if Utah finished any lower than 6 over the course of this season. Clemson, by virtue of winning the ACC, they're in at 14. I've got Tennessee 15 out, Oklahoma out, Kansas State out, Oklahoma State out. They've got a cakewalk schedule. They got a 7th-year quarterback in Alan Bowman.
7. What do you mean 7?
But they only
7 years of college football.
Well, the same question about Dylan Gabriel. He's been in college football forever. They only play 1 preseason top 25 team all year. They could be 11-1. I just don't think they have the They don't have the resume there.
That's wild.
And then don't say I never did anything for you. I got Miami in.
Ooh.
I think Miami with that schedule being virtually undefeated by the end of the year, if they can get by Florida State, they're a lock.
Sure.
And we could see 2 ACC teams in. A&M at 20 is out, and then of course there's the G5 rep, whoever that is. So my 12-team playoff, I've got 4 SEC teams in, 3 Big 10, 1 Big 12, 2 ACC, 1 independent being Notre Dame, and then 1 G5. That's my 12.
Notre Dame, Notre Dame better not get in. I hope they have a soft schedule, but
people have been saying
Notre
that
Dame
for the last decade of the 4-team playoff, and they keep getting in.
I can't stand Notre Dame. Does anybody actually like Notre Dame?
When I was a kid, I was a Notre Dame fan.
Were you really?
Because the movie Rudy turned me into a Notre Dame fan.
Yeah, I get that.
And I didn't realize that I was going to be a Sean Astin fan my entire life.
Are there Notre Dame fans in the upstate? Let me ask that
Guaranteed.
question. Tolos, Notre Dame fans out there? Yes or no? I don't think there are. I really don't. I don't think there are Notre Dame fans here. You don't ever see Notre Dame gear, Irish gear here in the upstate. At least I don't, but we'll see. All right, coming up next, the best and worst fantasy football team names in our wire-to-wire fantasy football league. This should be fun. Diesel, I'll let you say which are the best and which are the worst. You have 3 minutes to change your name if it sucks. That coming up next.
Come back to me for the live read. Sports are heating up. High school football now just a couple of weeks away. Some of you might even be going out to the jamborees over the next couple of weeks. And trust me, wherever you go, you're going to see an Ingles Market logo, a banner somewhere in that stadium, because Ingles Markets does so much to support the local sports scene. So whether you're going to high school games, whether you're going to college games, or even some pro games around here, you're going to see Ingles Markets wherever you go. They do a fantastic job. They love supporting the local sports scene, and you should support them right back. Stop by your local Ingles Markets. And hey, they have fantastic store brand products there. Their Laura Lynn products are delicious, better than national brands in a lot of cases. They have a great grocery section with wide aisles, very navigable aisles. They can have everything you're looking for inside the store in stock, because they really take pride in having a huge selection, even especially in their international section. They've got gourmet foods. The frozen food section is really great as well. And of course, we can't forget about that meat department. They have a sign over the department that says best meat in town. They have it because it's absolutely true. They only sell USDA choice and prime grades of beef, the top 2 grades of beef. Stop by your Ingles Market this weekend and let them
Final segment of hour number 3. We have one more to go, and then Diesel is off to New Mexico. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, going out there to the home of the atomic program, Los Alamos.
Say that one more time.
Los Alamos.
Los Alamos.
Which means the Alamos.
Oh, okay.
I think.
That's fun though. That's fun. Old New Mexico.
Yeah.
And you're flying out tomorrow. So Diesel will be out next week. We'll shed tears, and then he will be back the week after that. As man, when you get back, it'll be full force.
I just Googled what does Los Alamos translate to, and it translates to "we pop them."
Wait,
I don't know
what?
if that's like a boom, like a bomb reference.
Really?
We pop them. That can't be right. That can't be right.
Well, if the internet said it.
Well, yeah.
I thought
it says
internet...
Spanish to English. Then now it says we populate them. I don't know. I don't know. What does it mean?
All right. So
San Diego, a whale's, you know what?
Oh, on Monday, Diesel, we had organically a wire-to-wire fantasy football league spawn. We made the league, and in less than 24 hours, the league filled up.
Sweet.
20 members, boom, done. Diesel said, nah, he don't play fantasy football, so that left one more spot for you Tolos. Best names, worst names, as we go through this league.
Are we gonna rate them? I haven't seen these yet.
I'm gonna name the best ones because there's some
Okay.
that Diesel don't deserve me even naming them off. Okay, Tolo Cole though. I mean, come on. I'm trying to get the Tolo chant starred at the very top, and mine for now is Tolo Cole because I'm a Tolo. You're a Tolo. We're all Tolos. I may change mine. I couldn't think of something.
Toloco?
Toloco. I like that.
Or be like Toe Loco.
Oh,
But it's Toloco.
I like that even better.
Yeah.
See, that's why I asked you. Always great ideas. Madcraft, Riley Reed option. I don't know what that means.
Madcraft. Come on,
Do you
man.
I don't know. I'm in the dark here.
Madcraft. Come on, man.
Was I supposed to? Is it okay that I read that over the air?
Oh, yeah, you
Should
can
I
read that
not
over the
have
air.
read it over
Oh, my God.
Why do I not know what that
That
means?
is champion of the league.
Are you serious?
Can't get any better than that. You can't. Riley Reed is a adult film star.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I did not know that.
But I like the pun. That's great.
When you started laughing, I was thinking,
great.
Man, maybe I shouldn't have read that.
I mean, he could have put Ed Reed option, but it's not quite as good. You dirty birdie.
Madcraft.
You dirty boy.
JD, Southern Fried Football. That's a good one. I like Southern Fried. It makes me hungry.
Yep.
Let's see.
Chicken fried football.
How about the Simpsonville Buckeyes? I don't like the Buckeyes. You know me. I'm not a Buckeye fan.
They're poisonous.
That's
Buckeyes
Lonzo.
are poisonous. You can't eat them.
The Greer Grimace.
Okay,
I
not
like
bad.
that
Yeah,
one. I like the Greer
I
Grimace.
like alliteration. I'm a big fan of that one for sure.
It is. Dirty Dom. Not really sure about that one. Gaffney Crusaders. That one's random. Didn't expect those two in the same fantasy name.
Yep.
The Dump Button. Do you want to guess, Diesel, whose team name that is? Because this is
the
not hard.
dump button.
Think about it. On this show.
Is it on
this show. Calling in. Cole had a turnaround.
Oh, that's Shane Barrett. That's
Bingo.
Shane Barrett.
Bingo. Shane Barrett. That's a good name though.
Yeah.
Dump Button. It fits him well. So Shane, I like yours a lot.
Did Shane hit us with the most curse words of any caller on this show? There was one, right? There was another interview. We had
Dilworth guy,
we
right?
had the Dilworth neighborhood grill owner who dropped like 3 cuss words on us in 4 minutes. Like it didn't even have enough time to populate the 8 seconds back to dump it again.
I mean, it was bad. It was bad. How about Reapers Roughnecks?
Good. I like the alliteration.
Let's see who else. This is not Rob Brown, but one of our team names is Too Short Liber Rob. And it's not Rob. It's not Rob. The Spartanburg Sasquatch is a team name in our fantasy league.
Good.
No Spartanburgers though.
There's also a Boone Sasquatch. That's the name of their there's a semi-pro sports league. It's soccer. That's the semi-pro soccer team in Boone are the Boone Sasquatch. That's pretty awesome. Are there any more, Cole, that I haven't heard yet?
No, I mean there are a few other ones, but they're not really worthy of. I'm not being
the Riley Reed.
When you started laughing, I was thinking, crap, man. I don't know why.
Madcraft, that's too good.
You scared me. I thought I read something that I wasn't supposed to read.
Oh my God! And only perverts are gonna get it.
Leave it to Madcraft.
Yeah, only.
Leave it to Madcraft.
That's the one I wouldn't have even thought of.
That's good.
That's funny, dude.
It's funny.
That's plain funny. That's good stuff. Hey, when we come back, we go back into our conversation with Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer. We had a wide-ranging NASCAR conversation, from getting back into the season now that they've had a couple of weeks break from the Olympics, and what exactly we expect to see out of this baseball game at Bristol. We'll get to that next, right here on the Fan Upstates.
We were talking earlier today. We mentioned about before. He tweets
Shane, we were talking about there just a couple of weeks off, and some of these drivers are going off and getting married. Some are taking long vacations. What are these drivers doing now to ensure that there's no rust for their return to the track? Right? It's like watching preseason football. There's practice reps, and then there's real game reps. What are they doing to make sure they don't lose that edge during the break?
I think a lot of these guys are trying to just get their mind kind of reset. Anytime during the week, they're having their normal routines, but these few weeks allowed for a kind of slight change in that pattern. And to your point, for these guys who are in these tough situations over the next few weeks, I think it allows for even more strategizing. These guys are going into meetings every week, not just their team members and crew guys, but these drivers are a big part of that, because no matter for however much pit crews will prepare, crew chiefs will get everybody ready, all of that work is all dependent on that guy sitting with his foot on the gas pedal. And so these drivers, I think it depends on the individual person themselves, but there's a lot of different things that they could do in this kind of break, because again, they're the one who's in control of everything that happens with the whole team, regardless of how much data and research all these teams can kind of prepare for every track coming up. It's all on that driver to kind of get their own mind right.
Shane, what do you think the biggest storyline is heading into this last part of the season?
I think the biggest storyline of the Olympic break and the biggest storyline of right now is very much, and I'm sure we're getting to it, is about Major League Baseball coming to Bristol Motor Speedway next year. But the biggest storyline as we get to these next few weeks, it's that similar competitiveness, because every year that they've instituted these playoffs going back to 2014. They called it the chase. There are all different scenarios that everybody's watching for. And this year, there's not one dominant driver. Last year, William Byron pretty quickly emerged as the wins leader. I feel like in other years, there's one or two, or really one driver who just has the most wins, or they have the most top 10 finishes. Not that they're all the way at the top of the standings, but this year, Kyle Larson has really appeared to be that driver. For the same reasons as last year, and we won 3 races early on, Byron could have been that guy again. Danny Hamlin, for more reasons than ever, has been that. And Christopher Bell is sitting there with 3 wins himself. And defending champion Blaney has got 2. So this year there's more parity in the Cup Series, I think, than there has ever been. Not because you have all different scenarios happening and it's a total crapshoot, but because you clearly have solid, strong contenders, then another group of perennial playoff candidates, and then other drivers who have their ability to earn those spots in any of these races, just like it's always been. We're starting to see it get more and more competitive for those final 4 spots, while still having 12 drivers who have won this year, and more than that who are capable of winning every single week.
Shane, NASCAR and baseball are 2 sports that are kind of suffering from the same viewership crisis. And they're teaming up to bring Major League Baseball to Bristol. You brought it up there, Braves and Reds. Who's going to benefit more from this one-off event, Major League Baseball or NASCAR?
I still think NASCAR is going to benefit more, because Major League Baseball is as big as Major League Baseball is. I think at this point in 2024, most people who grow up in Tennessee who are baseball fans are baseball fans anyway. They probably go down to Atlanta for the same way that Braves fans from all over the South have always done, or whether they move down from the way they've been talking about how a lot of Reds fans live around there are going to be just as excited about this. I think what it does is that it really elevates NASCAR, because it was a big deal for baseball when they played a game at Fort Bragg in Cary, North Carolina years back. That was the first time they ever played a game here in the Tar Heel State. Back this past year when they played the first game in Iowa at the Field of Dreams. And now this season playing at Rickwood Field in Birmingham, Alabama, Major League Baseball is really trying to get into every single state and every single market in whatever way it can. And being that Major League Baseball is big and national enough, Bristol is now just another neutral site that baseball is going to, and the fact that it's going to allow for them to probably set the attendance record and have it be in a much bigger, all that uniqueness to it for baseball is awesome. But I think it's even just watching the press conference today, and they have Chipper Jones and Eric Davis and Major League Baseball greats there alongside guys like Kevin Harvick and guys like Chase Elliott and Ross Chastain. And it just feels like it's a big deal for NASCAR to be alongside Major League Baseball rather than the other way around.
Who do you think, I've asked you this once before, Shane, probably, I don't know, a month or two ago, but who do you think heading out of the break, what NASCAR driver or drivers has the most pressure on them to go ahead and get that win, lock themselves into the playoff before the playoffs get here?
Currently, Bubba Wallace, 7 points below the cut line, and then you get Chase Briscoe, Kyle Busch, and Todd Gilliland. So as you start to get further and further down, it's a lot of drivers who really would need that one win, and that might be an even more unlikely scenario now. But you're going to be seeing guys like Chris Buescher and Ty Gibbs racing more aggressively, and Ross Chastain for another one, racing even more aggressively than they have all season long, because those are drivers who are regularly in contention, and at this point, they want to win their way. They don't just want to get a couple points, be above, have another top 10, risk wrecking late and getting knocked below that cut line. Those guys really want to win more than ever, and so I'm going to specifically say a rookie or now second-year driver in Ty Gibbs, who has had the runs, has had the strong results in qualifying, couple of poles this year, but just has not been able to find that win. If he wants to make it into the playoffs, he can easily fall below that cut line any of these weeks, especially with only 4 left now. But we've talked about him a lot, but Martin Truex Jr. retiring at the end of this season has still not won a race this year. He's sitting in 13th place in the standings, 108 points above that playoff cut line. But it feels like Truex potentially missing the playoffs in his final season is something that's not off the table. It's unlikely if he could just have a few. He seems to know how to just, even if he comes in 15th to 20th the next few weeks, he might be fine, and not necessarily win. But I think that if Truex can get to victory lane at Richmond, a place where he's won 3 times since 2019, that would be a cool story, and that's a very likely outcome this weekend.
Find him on Twitter at Shane_Connuck. Shane, you're there in Charlotte working for the Charlotte Observer, so you're near the NASCAR Hall of Fame. I've never been into it. I don't know if Cole has ever been into it. Is there a corner of that facility or a room that you just have a special affinity for, that you walk in, you're like, this is my spot?
My favorite part of the NASCAR Hall of Fame is where the idea, like every other Hall of Fame, when you get to that room where they have all of the busts in football and you have all the plaques up and you can find the Hall of Famer, the way that NASCAR does it is you walk into this room and you just see not even just plaques, but it's like a whole real life kind of depiction of that driver. And then they have a phone where you can pick up the phone and you hear kind of an announcer breaking down aspects of that driver's career, and just being up there and just listening and watching videos of Dale Earnhardt's career and hearing the voices in it is just such a cool experience that we have here in Uptown Charlotte.
That's amazing. I've never been to it, and Diesel, you and I were really close.
We drove right past it.
I was going to say a couple of weeks ago and didn't even make the stop. Shane, do you think that with going back to what they're doing and incorporating MLB and NASCAR, do you think that that's something that you would foresee in the future becoming more of a regular occurrence with the Braves and the Reds or any team, or is it going to, in your mind, going to stay more of a one-hit wonder?
This will probably be more of a one-hit wonder like the other Major League Baseball games that it played at neutral sites over the past few years. But what I think that all of this is going to lead to is Major League Baseball's expansion into new cities and new states. And at this point, it's becoming clearer and clearer that you look at all the Southeast not having a major league team, that whether it ends up being Nashville, Charlotte, that someone will end up with a team somewhere. But events like this, knowing how big NASCAR is to people in this community, they talked about it a lot at the press conference they had in Bristol this morning, that it's the country music capital, and how and how intertwined baseball and country music have always been, the same way NASCAR and country music and baseball and NASCAR. And so everything all ends up helping each other. But I do think that even though this will be a one-time, one-year baseball game at Bristol, it's a spectacle, that it's going to lead to increased exposure for Major League Baseball in parts of the country like Tennessee.
Shane, I'm looking at a rendering here for the first time. We were trying to guess yesterday how exactly they were going to situate this baseball field inside of Bristol Motor Speedway. And it's for those who haven't seen the image yet, home plate will be basically right in front of the start-finish line on the infield. They're going to have a small smattering of stands that kind of wrap directly behind home plate down the left field line, and then they're going to sell a horseshoe of fans from, this looks like it's coming out of turn 4 all the way around to going into turn 3. Have you heard anything at all as far as how expensive these tickets are going to be and just how like on demand or in demand they're going to be?
Have not heard yet. All that's been kind of talked about thus far is just kind of laying out the field, laying out the idea that this place can fit 146,000 people. And that would shatter the attendance record for Major League Baseball, which was set over 100,000 for a spring training game years back. But yeah, that field between turns 3 and 4 of the track, 330 feet down the line, 384 to the left field alley, 400 to dead center, 375 to the right field alley. Just baseball field wedged onto the infield at Bristol Motor Speedway. Again, this is going to be something that's going to try to draw a lot of people to it. So even though it's going to be a spectacle and a one-of-a-kind event, I just can't foresee tickets being too steep of a price because it's probably just as, if not more important, to have as many people from as many places as you can have inside of the last great Coliseum on August 2nd.
Shane, is corporate going to send you to this race?
I would. If there's an assignment, I would want.
They better. I'll tell you this. They ain't selling 150,000 tickets to see the Braves and the Reds. Let me just put it out there. I'll go ahead and make the prediction. Oh, and by the way, speaking of Braves, before we let you run, Shane, the Braves gave your Mets every chance, and they're going to give them plenty more chances, but they're a dumpster fire. Your Mets are being handed the wild card on the silver platter.
I don't know if the Mets are ever going to be handed anything, but I'll try to enjoy any moment that you can enjoy with that fan.
Great stuff, man. We appreciate you hopping on with us, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Always a pleasure. Can't wait, boys.
Thank you, Shane. That is Shane Connuck of the Charlotte Observer. Look him up at Shane _
It's okay. Keep going with the music. We were going to bring it back here and talk for a few minutes. It's okay. We'll get a break. It's all right.
Okay.
We were going to come back here and talk for a few
I
minutes.
didn't see what you're saying.
That's all good. Hey, the listeners didn't know. So you can go ahead and fire Line Order 1. Perfect.
You work a 9 to 5. You think you know better than career coaches.
High school football is literally around the corner, and by around the corner, I mean 2 weeks from right now. 2 weeks. We'll be an hour away from kickoff, week 0. I know everybody hates week 0. I don't know why Diesel week 0 is a thing, but I guess that college and high school both have to have week 0. You can't just have week 1 and add the additional week on the back end. But week
everybody's
0,
going to jump the gun.
Whatever that means. Whatever that means. I don't know what does that mean? It almost sounds like it's not even an official week, right? Your jamborees should be called week 0. So high school football is just around the corner. And there are several jamborees, scrimmages going on right now tonight. As we speak, Greer Gaffney is happening up at Gaffney. It was scheduled for last night. A lot of these jamborees and scrimmages were scheduled for last night, Diesel, but Old Deborah had something to say about that. Tonight, McDonald's Kickoff Classic going on as we speak. Union County versus SCA right now. Northwestern JL Man in about 30 minutes. York, Chester, 8 p.m. and Union County and Lawrence at 9 p.m. Union County, Lawrence, two schools rather, with brand new head coaches in Quentin Isom and Greg Porter at Lawrence.
So, Cole, explain to me and to the listeners unfamiliar with what the Jamboree format is.
A lot of schools do it with multiple teams. Like McDonald's Kickoff Classic usually gets 6 to 8 teams, and they'll play 2 quarters. So they'll just play 2 quarters tonight, like in the McDonald's Kickoff Classic going on right now at Union. Union SCA plays 2 quarters, right, and then Ware Shoals. Because I think the rules change year to year, but I think there are some rules about playing more than 2 quarters in a jamboree. So this time of year, this week and next week, you'll see just 2 quarters. Which, it's better than nothing.
So you get a bunch of teams together, they play half games.
They play half games.
Okay.
So 8 teams together playing half games will last from about 6 to 10. So it actually will be about 4.5 hours of football. But you can buy a ticket, price of admission, $10, $8, whatever it is, and see 4 games, half games, and 8 teams.
So in your experience, compared to preseason games in the NFL, what are coaches looking to learn in these jamborees? Are they looking to cut down on their squads? Mm-hmm. Are they just like looking for live game reps to see how guys react in live game reps?
Yeah, more of that. It's completely opposite of NFL. And if we have any questions on the text line, Diesel, you can see the text line. My computer died, so you'll keep an eye on that. I do see Madcraft asking the question. 71307. If you want to chime in on the high school football conversation, start your text board. Fan phone lines open as well during this segment. 844-FAN-PHONE. No, to answer your question, it's complete opposite, Diesel. So at the high school level, these teams, it'll be all starters. I mean, completely. You may see some 2s and 3s get out there tonight, and later in the game, but they're starting their starters just as they would 2 weeks from now, right? They want to see their guys out there, and because you don't have as many practices at the high school level. Practices, fall camp just started a couple of weeks back. So tonight and next week, it'll be a lot of games that a lot of guys that you'll be expecting to hear on Friday.
So it's almost as if seeing your starters in live game reps is valuable, especially when it comes to unproven talents, giving them time to gel in a system.
Take that paintbrush out of your hand. You're painting me in a corner, and I can't get out of it. I can't get out of it because I've painted myself in a corner.
Let's see. We have a texter here who says, I think this is JD. I do believe. He says, I hate everyone calling it week 0 as much as I hate having a get-back coach on the sideline. Nobody starts counting at 0.
Nobody starts counting at 0. I agree if it's JD or anybody. And I have a few teams to watch. We'll get to those in a second. Madcraft on the stream, ask a question. Again, you can get your thoughts in 71307. Start your text with the word fan on the high school football conversation. Madcraft says, I know nothing about Dorman's squad this year. Think they'll be any good. Dorman, Madcraft, second year under Jake Morris at head coach. They've lost some guys to the transfer portal, if you want to call it what it is, at the high school level. It's alive and well, right? They've lost some guys. I think Dorman will be better than they were last year, but I don't think Dorman will be the Dorman that we're used to seeing. Like, I'll give you a good example. When the previous show started on this station, Diesel, that was on before us, the former host, when that show started, I remember I did a show with you guys at Dorman High School for a high school football media day. This was like 2019, maybe. It's been a while. But for those that are new to the area, and I do dumb it down because we have a lot of people that move into Greenville and Spartanburg every single day. Dorman is not what they used to be. They used to be the cream of the crop under Dave Gutschall, and they just haven't been there in the last few years. I don't think they made a good hire bringing Dustin Curtis to Dorman a few years ago. And then, he left, went back to Lexington, and now you have Jake Morris in the second year. It's not Jake Morris's fault that he inherited the program the way it was. I think they'll be better, Matt Kraft, but they did lose, some key guys in the portal, and they've got to be able to get back to what made Dorman football, run the football, and they're just not that team lately.
So, Cole, I want you to go into a little bit of Burns High School, the way Burns is built. Now, they're in a very unique and unenviable situation where they are building a brand new stadium there.
Yep.
On the campus at Burns High School. It's going to be phenomenal once it's finished. But this year, they're playing all of their games on the road. Give me an indication what you think straight out of the gate of their ability to weather that storm, because that puts them in a tough spot, playing every game on the road. Do you think they have the depth to be able to handle that type of difficult schedule? And I would imagine, as this is a completely self-imposed situation, we're building a new stadium.
Sure.
There will be no special consideration whatsoever by the South Carolina High School League,
right,
as far as qualifying the fact that, they had this record, but all of their games were on the road.
No, there won't be, because, like you said, it's just one of those situations. It's kind of unprecedented.
Kind of got to go through it. It just is what it is.
It is what it is. There's not a lot you can do. I'll say this, and when we talk high school football, I have to be a little more careful than I am when we talk college or pro, because I try to keep good relationships with all the high schools in the upstate. I know, Diesel, to your point, they're playing all the games on the road. And I've had this conversation. I'm glad you brought this up, because I've had this conversation 3 or 4 times in the last 2 weeks about people asking the same thing. What are they going to do playing all the games on the road? How are they going to get past that? And I understand that is a hurdle, right? I get that. I'm not diminishing that. I'm not saying that playing all the games on the road doesn't impact them in a negative way. I understand that it does. However, I'm just going back to the Bobby Bentley days of Burns, when Burns was nationally ranked and Burns was a machine. I do not want people, and Burns fans specifically, because I know we have a lot of them in our audience, I don't want people to use that as an excuse, because at the end of the day, if you ask Diesel, the all-time greats, the Bobby Bentleys, the Dave Gutshalls, the Tom Knotts, at the high school level, they would tell you, yeah, we got to play on the road, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's playing on grass, playing on turf. Nothing changes. I hope. I know it's difficult, but I hope that doesn't turn into an excuse, because I'm not going to buy it.
See, what I look at is not necessarily the home field advantage based on the crowds that they're playing. No disrespect to any of the high schools around here, but we're not talking about 100,000 seat stadiums, right?
Yeah.
Where you've just got this wall of sound coming down at you.
Yeah.
Quick thought off the top of your head: who probably has the largest stadium that Burns is even going to play in this year?
Probably Gaffney, or just off the top of my head.
Gaffney's got a heck of a home field advantage. I've been to a Gaffney game.
They do.
But you're talking about there, probably 10,000
or
8,000?
The most they've ever
Something
had
like
at that, I'd say on any given night, anywhere from 4 to 6.
Okay. So you're talking about at most a 6,000 strong crowd against you. And for 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, that might be a little intimidating, because it might be the biggest crowd they've ever played against.
Sure.
I look at maybe just the physical exhaustion, especially late in the season, as you're getting on the bus again every week to go on the road, just the monotony of having to do that, and the sort of pain in the butt nature of having to do that week in and week out. I can see it becoming a factor down the stretch, but early when you're fresh, guys God, if it was me, man, I'd be putting a black skull and crossbones somewhere on my jersey just to show that, like, we're pirates. We're going on the road. We are always behind enemy lines. That's a fascinating season, a very unique season. Can you give me any indication what was the reasoning behind choosing to do it that way rather than maybe selecting Wofford Stadium as a venue?
And again, I'll be very honest and open on the air. I'm a Wofford fan. You know that. Wofford wanted $50,000 plus, not just a one-time fee. Wofford wanted an absurd. Basically, they said no, right? That Wofford wanted an absurd amount of money. They tried. Burns tried to play at Wofford. Burns tried a couple other places, but the money at the end of the day is what really gave them the hunch to hate.
And you can't just go play at a rec field because obviously the condition of the field matters,
and stands
matter. You have to find just a truly unique option, which probably would have been way more expensive if you had to put up temporary locker rooms, even if you put the big circus tents that you rent out when you have a big event.
And North Greenville would have been a great option. However, they did not want the students to have to drive. You know how those roads are. It's 40 minutes. So that's a tough one. Now I'll give you 3 teams to watch, and this is a very brief high school football segment. For more, 2 weeks from tomorrow, you'll get 2 uninterrupted hours high school football coverage. Saturday Scramble debuts the 17th. That's not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow. 3 teams to watch at the higher classifications. We'll get into the lower classifications on the Scramble. Alex Guest and I will. Number 1, Diesel. This is a team that we'll talk about a lot during the year. West Side. You and I talked to Cutter Woods, who committed to South Carolina, a couple of months ago. They added several transfers, key transfers at wide receiver, safety position from Burns. Really good weapons. They'll have a very good shot at winning 4A again this year. Brian Lane and Westside won 4A last year, and with the transfers, they'll have a good shot at doing it again this year. So watch out for Westside and 4A. They're definitely one of the top 4A teams, not just in the upstate, but in the state in general. Number 2, I would say watch out for Gaffney. Gaffney's always going to be good. Javon Gilmore transfers in from Ben Lippen, one of the best running backs in the state, and Jaden McDowell, really, really good offensive line. With Surratt and those guys, Jaden McDowell will be able to run the ball a lot behind them. They'll have a good defense. And Dan Jones going for one more championship in his last season as the head coach of the Gaffney Indians. I think there's a good shot that happens. I really do. They're going to be really, really good this year. And Javon Gilmore hadn't been playing the quarterback position very long. I believe just over a year now. But from what I've seen and what I've heard, I think they'll be in good shape. And then the 3rd team, Westside 1, Gaffney 2. Boiling Springs, my hometown. Boiling Springs is a very senior-heavy team. Very experienced team in 2024. I would say circle them, watch out for them. They are led by a really good quarterback in Lincoln Husky. Matt Reel has done a really good job since he's been there, taking over as the head coach just a couple of years ago. They've got some really good receivers. I think that Boiling Springs will have one of the better defensive lines in the upstate and might fly a little under the radar. Again, they're in a stacked, tough region, as we all know, but I will put Boiling Springs, Matt Reel, and Lincoln Husky as my 3rd team to watch. So I've got Westside, Gaffney, Boiling Springs. Just a quick teaser before high school football season gets here. Again, Burns, not next week, but the next week, and then Saturday Scramble next Saturday.
Are there any big changes coming to the high school rule books this year? I mean, I know that the South Carolina High School League likes to tinker with things year in and year out. Some years more changes than others. Is there anything that those who maybe haven't gone to a game in a couple of years or win a lot last year, they're going to see something new this year that they're not expecting?
The biggest thing will be 2 classifications in 5A. It wasn't this way last year. A few years ago it was. The last time Spartanburg, and again, I'm not looking at anything, so I'm thinking off of memory here. The last time Spartanburg won a state championship with Chris Miller in 14 or 15, whatever year it was, there were 2 divisions, Diesel, in 5A. So 5A is its own classification, right? This year, 5A will have 2 different divisions because of the amount of teams. So there will be a Division 1 5A winner
and a Division II 5A.
So they're still roughly the same size schools.
Yeah.
Same size student bodies, just not a. So it's not there's not enough variance in the student bodies there to split off and make a 6A, for example.
Well, in my opinion, that's what they should do. They should go ahead because everybody else does. Georgia's 6A, North Carolina, they're not quite there yet, but Georgia and Florida, all the big states below us, they're 6A. And I do believe that within a matter of the next reclassification and next, I'd say 2 to 4 years, we will have 6A here in South Carolina.
Texter says Gaffney is ranked number 1 by Sports Illustrated. I read it recently on my stuff.
Yes, they are. They're going to be very, very good on your stuff. Very, very good.
Let's see. Magcraft says places like Spartanburg, Dorman, and Boiling Springs don't seem like true road games for Burns. Burns fans travel extremely well.
They will. And, the Spartanburg County close by games. But Burns has a very, very tough schedule. And it's going to be, they have a loaded schedule in 2024. So it's going to be a lot of fun, man.
If I am a senior at Burns, I don't know what the expectations for the season are to challenge for a state title in the division or in the classification. This seems like a year where I get to, it stinks that you don't get to be in front of your home fans in the new stadium, but you also get that unique opportunity to, kind of be the black shirts.
You do.
And go out there and headhunt a little bit. I think that would be a really interesting time and place to be a senior in high school. When we come back, a lot of stuff is going on in the sports world. We call it our Daily Wires, some things that we have found out recently over the past hour or so. We're going to bring that to you on the Daily Wires next, right here on the Fan of States. One last round of our Daily Wires to close out the week. Cole, this is the buzz happening around the sports world.
But real quick, I'm sad.
Why?
You're leaving me.
Oh, well, you left me.
Well, you left me first.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you're right. I left you first.
Controversial.
It's not like a bad relationship.
Controversial boxer Imaine Khalif won gold in the women's featherweight final. Cole, this is the boxer that the internet can't seem to figure out or stop arguing over whether or not she is actually a she.
Well, there's one way to find out.
Well, it depends on how good her search is. No, so apparently, again, I don't claim to be an expert on this subject, but Imaine Khalif, according to her birth certificate, was born a female.
Okay.
The passport says female.
Okay.
And she has lived her entire life as a female, but there was a failed test that was done under less than scrupulous conditions a couple of years ago that may have indicated a higher level of testosterone in her system. So, and in boxing, where a test is performed, who oversees it, and the results really, really matter. And when you embroil this in the controversy over like Russian sponsorship money that's involved, which is Russian oil money, which also somehow contradicts and gets involved in what's going on in Ukraine. There are some, there's a possibility that some bad actors are getting involved to stir up this controversy. Again, I don't pretend to know the truth of what's going on in its totality in this situation, but Imaine Khalif has won gold in the women's featherweight final. China retook the gold medal lead earlier today, 31-30, but the U.S. has since tied it 33-33.
We can't lose to China.
No, we can't lose to China.
They know, and they basically own us already.
Yeah, they are. The U.S. has won a couple of gold medals today. What they won was the men's 400-meter hurdle finals.
There you go.
And we also got gold medal in the women's 4x100 relay final. Sha'Carri Richardson ran the anchor leg of that. And if you haven't seen the video yet, she pulls ahead by a couple of feet. And then she turns and looks directly at the camera that's running on a track right beside her. Just such a boss moment. Congratulations to Sha'Carri Richardson.
You know what's crazy about these Olympic Games? If you told me, I don't know how many different sports there are, and this is bad, I shouldn't be admitting this, but if you told me there are, let's say 50 different Olympic sports, I'm just using that as an example, and you said, hey, explain the rules to me in each of these sports. Like, I don't know that these hurdles and all that, I don't know track, I don't know all these different Olympic games. I would struggle to understand the rules of them. So, you know what? Kudos to them. I need to watch more, I guess.
There are 32 different sports in the Olympics. Now, when you break that out into the 1,000,001 different categories in which you can medal in the Olympics, that's how you get so many Olympic medals.
Gotcha.
Speaking of which, the overall lead for gold medals is tied at 33 between U.S. and China. Great Britain has 14. France has 14. Just U.S. and China, we're running away with this thing. U.S. has the most total medals, 111 to 83. Jim Harbaugh has been named an honorary captain for the home opener versus Fresno State. He will be on the field for the team's coin toss. He is just throwing a middle finger at the NCAA, saying, screw you, you're a joke. Come and get me, I dare you.
That is so, like,
So Jim
Michigan.
Harbaugh.
Are y'all serious? Like, you're really going to – but you're right. It is like, hey, screw y'all. I mean, that's – he should have waited until the Ohio State game, though.
That would have been great. Yeah, that would have been great. Radio host Mike Florio, who works for NBC, has floated. Now, there's no real legs behind this, but he has floated that the NCAA should pressure the NFL to punish Jim Harbaugh. How far will that go?
That's dumb.
Nowhere.
That's dumb. He ain't got no legs, Dan.
Let's see. The Patriots have released their wide receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster. Big name, but you say he's gotten a little older. He's got some injuries on him, and he may not be worth the locker room cancer that he
Maybe not. I don't know that I would say that he's definitely – I mean, what does he add value-wise?
If I'm the Panthers, I make a run at them just because we need all the talent we can.
Well, that
get,
might be
right?
true. That might be true.
Let's see. Speaking of those Carolina Panthers, the Delta flight that brought the Carolina Panthers home last night from that 17-3 shellacking they took from the New England Patriots in their preseason game went off the end of the runway. It just fell off the end of the taxiway, and then the wheels got stuck in the mud, and they couldn't get off the plane until nearly 3:45 this morning.
You didn't need that right before you flew tomorrow.
No, didn't need that. Didn't need the plane crash in Brazil.
But you know that you have a better chance, and I know I'm not trying to get really dark here. You know you have a better chance of dying on I-85 than
Oh,
you do
yeah.
plane.
Absolutely. I don't fly enough that I'm completely comfortable with it. But it's funny. Like, I turn on the news and I see, a car crash happened.
Yeah.
Doesn't faze me.
Yeah.
But when I turn on the TV and hear plane crash happened, I'm like, oh, crap.
Oh
I'm
God,
flying in a
I'm
couple of
flying.
days.
I love flying, man. I love
do?
it. I could do it every single day. I think if I just get if you know what hits the fan, I'm gonna go be a flight attendant.
Really?
Nah, probably not, but it'd be fun.
I don't know. I don't think you'd look good in those.
Oh,
pink shirts.
come on.
Though, if you wanted to go get me some peanuts and audition for the
Pretzels.
job, right?
Pretzels.
Yeah. So they don't. That's right. They don't do peanuts anymore because of the allergies.
Oh,
No, they do those little biscotti cookies. now.
Those are
That's-
so good. Hey,
Are
let me
they?
tell you, if they
I
give them
know.
to you on the plane, real quick, dip them in the coffee. Ask for those and the
Okay.
coffee. Oh,
Okay.
it's so good.
Okay. Team USA came back from down 17 yesterday to beat Serbia. There's 3 preseason games tonight: Texans, Steelers, Falcons, Dolphins, and Eagles, Ravens.
Let's go. Football's here, baby.
Football is back. You Tolos, appreciate you being a part of the show today. Magcraft, absolutely legendary team name. The Riley Reid option, just chef's kiss.
What am I going to do with y'all?
Bye, Tolos.
And Diesel's out. I'm by myself next week.